Hello, everybody. This is episode 99 of the Game for All show. This is our post show to the Xbox Bethesda showcase this year that we've just been watching live on our new Twitch channel. So if you're watching later on YouTube, I'm sure we'll link that down below if one of us remembers. And as you can see, we've got a few guests with us. First, we have the Lord of the Livestream, Phillip J Woodward. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
And we also have, from Analog Stick Gaming, Jeff, our good friend Jeff. How are you, Jeff?
Doing quite well. Thank you.
And then there's two other guys here as well, but you know them. You know them by now. Sean's back. He disappeared for a while. And Luke's been doing gameplay on Eat Sleep Game for the last couple of weeks. Dying in Elden Ring and other games.
Everything else. Everything. I died in solitaire as well somehow. That was incredible.
So, guys, we've just been watching the Xbox Bethesda showcase, and I think before we kind of break it down and go through each game and stuff like that, we should just give overall thoughts. So, Jeff, I'm going to start with you. What did you think of this showcase?
I saw a lot that I want to play. I mean, that's what I wanted going into the show. I know that with all these types of shows, you get wild expectations of kind of what to expect. But aside from maybe about 4 or 5 things, I think there was pretty much everything else was stuff that I was like, I'm definitely going to play that. And a couple things where I was really super stoked about.
And ultimately, that's the sign of a strong show, right? Even though it was maybe missing that wow factor moment that we'll talk about later on. I agree with you. I think it was a good show. I, again, similarly, had lots of things in there that I want to play. Phil, what about you? How did you feel after this showcase?
I, for the most part, was excited for what we have in the background right now, which is Redfall. And I don't know if it really wowed me in the way that I wanted it to. But I still got to see gameplay of it. It's still a multiplayer shooter about killing vampires with your friends. So I'm excited. I'm happy that I was here. It was at the very beginning of the show, so I kind of rode that high. There were some other things that I thought were really cool. I love the fact that Xbox, Microsoft fans have the ability to check out the Persona series for the first time.
Yes, and I think that is a big thing. Like, we can obviously say, and I'm sure Sean will say in a minute, that people who've played Persona or wanted to play Persona have probably played it already. But there is always going to be an audience that finds it on Xbox who didn't have access to it before, right? Especially with it being on Game Pass. So I think that's a big win for them, really. Luke, you're next. How did you feel about this showcase?
Disappointed.
Yeah, not a lot for you here, was there?
Well, it's not there. There was stuff I might check out, but there was nothing really to this.
Look at those vampires disintegrating, Luke. Look at them.
Yeah, and there were a lot of spiders. There were spiders around. But like otherwise, they didn't wow me with anything. It was just, these games are going to be out at some point. Awesome.
Yeah, I think they had some meaningful things, but I think maybe they were missing. That
they brought Kojima out. I forgot about that. That's that's a show seller. This did nothing for me. I really wanted this to be the Xbox coming out thing that we've been waiting for forever, and it hasn't been. Just hasn't been.
Do you know what I've started to think, and we'll get into it a little bit later, but I've started to think that because they've got so much stuff and it's such a fine balancing act that we're never really going to have that year because it will always be one or two things that look great. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think there was anything that looked great here. I think there was a lot that looked okay. There's a lot that I might check out. If it wasn't for Game Pass, I wouldn't play most of the stuff that was on this show.
Okay, I mean, that's fair, but then I would say that again, some of that is to do with what you personally like as a gamer, right?
That's what I said.
For example, like when we all saw Redfall to start with, and you were saying like, what was it you said? There's no way that anyone could get you to play this game.
Yeah, no, it's not.
And that's even as someone who's a fan of Arcane, right? So that.
Yeah, but I'm not a fan of multiplayer games.
For sure, for sure.
Anyone
So
anyone can make a multiplayer game, and I'll just be like, nah, cool. Let's skip
yeah,
it.
for sure, for sure.
Is
So
there
Sean,
a multiplayer game that could come out that you would play? Like, is there something
it would be
someone could
hard
make?
for Luke. I think
It would have
be
to be
hard.
heavily narrative driven, because that's the thing for me. I'm a massive narratively not even necessarily it has to be heavily, because like Elden Ring isn't massively narratively driven, but like it has to have like a focus. I feel like
It has to have
so much
something that
multiplayer
is
games
more than
depends
just
so heavily
playing,
on
right?
having it depends so much on having other people to play with, and like when you try and play it on your own, there's not a lot to it.
Yeah, the experience is so different. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. I get that. No, I get that for sure. Sean, how did you feel about this show?
I thought it was okay. I enjoyed it. Like I saw some cool stuff, but it's very much a Game Pass show. I didn't really see Xbox in it, you know? Like I didn't see what's in store for what is now Xbox first party, you know, incorporating all the various new acquisitions and whatnot.
For sure.
So like from that
for sure.
respect, I think all of us would have guessed that Avowed was going to be here, so that's an odd omission.
Oh yeah.
I just did a
think
quick
there's a couple of I think there's a couple of surprising ones. I think Avowed being missing is a little bit weird. I think Hellblade 2 being missing is a little bit weird.
Oh my
Halo
god, I didn't
Battle
even
Royale.
think of that.
Yeah. But what I want to
Avowed
say is
But then the other
rumored
thing
to have
is just
restarted development like 2 years ago, though.
but then just to go off, just to kind of say something on that, one thing I do like that they did with this showcase is they kind of committed to the thing of everything we show you will be out within 12 months. And
Yeah,
and
that-
that
I mean, they
that's fine.
committed to
Now,
they
but
committed
we
to
can
the coming out in November.
we can
and
all
that's
admit
happened.
that while they've said everything's going to come out in the next 12 months, like we just have to take that with one of the
no,
biggest
of course.
pinches
But
of
what,
salt.
Yeah,
but what
absolutely.
I mean is that means that they purposely aren't showing things that are planned for release after that.
I
Right?
would like
Sure.
to say though, like Silk Song was shown before they said that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and what I'd like to, the final thing before we get into the nitty gritty, there were over 30, I just did a quick count. There's over 30 games in that showcase, and I would challenge each of you to name over 15 of them. Right? Like that's the kind of
Yeah.
showcase that we just watched.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's not a bad thing. There's plenty to play, lots of cool indies from cool unknown teams, some teams that we know about. You know, it was great to see Play Dead and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I'm not upset. I'm not.
And there
I'm not
were some
disappointed.
very cool looking things. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not in the camp of
disappointed
being
either.
disappointed. I actually really enjoyed that, and there's some cool, interesting stuff across a
Yeah.
variety of genre and platforms. Great, but it's not one to remember, right? This isn't
Yeah,
the
no,
year
for
that we're
sure.
going to remember Xbox.
I mean, yeah, this isn't that. This isn't their year of dreams, right? Which is the year that everybody's waiting for with Xbox. That's the thing, and I think it goes back to that thing we always say of now that they've got so many studios, the expectation is that every time they have a show, it's going to be that year of dreams kind of show, and you know they're just not there yet for whatever reason, whether that be partly outside circumstances, whether it be partly bad management and partly other things as well, I'm sure. Like, for whatever reason, they're just not there yet. Taking this show in isolation, I thought it was a good show. Like, they had enough here that interested me. Redfall looked way stronger than I expected it to be honest. Like, I'm very keen to play that now. Whereas before I was a bit like, oh, another one of these co-op shooters, you know? And it's like, oh no, they have actually got their own twist to it.
And it doesn't seem like they're doing the Left 4 Dead thing, right? Where it's like, here's an arena path that you're following, you're doing objectives. It seems like you're exploring an environment in this game instead of being set on like those rails.
Which is Arcane's like strong point as well, like their environments and stuff too. So
for sure. And I said it while we were watching it, you know, I like the fact that it's vampires instead of undead people, you know, do you know what I mean? I like that it's a different type of enemy to tackle, and hopefully they're gonna bring different gameplay challenges with them.
Yeah, I mean, some of the gameplay elements did have similarities to something like Left 4 Dead. There was like a blood pool monster where when they shot it, it like exploded and did something, which could be like a bloater or something in Left 4 Dead. But
of course,
they were like flying around and their movements were different. So I just think once we see more of that, which I imagine we will over the course of the next few months,
And I do-
It could really differentiate.
I don't know.
itself.
Like after seeing that, I get the impression that that might be very early next year. I don't know why, but I can see
Well,
them
wasn't that
having.
before they said it'll be
12
within the
months.
year?
Yeah.
I don't think it
Although-
was.
Like the
Got
three-
to be
No,
said,
it was because that was the
everything
first thing they
But
showed
what-
off.
Yeah, but wasn't their wording everything we've
Okay.
shown you and will show you today?
No, I
so
think
it
was
doesn't
everything
matter if
we
it was
will show
before or
you
not.
today was
Yeah.
was their statement.
I think it was
I
from
guess
that
we
Wait,
still
hang
hit
on.
that.
We have it- we have
still
it
hit
right
that
here.
Resident
Hang on.
Evil Village release date, wasn't that
Yeah.
like?
I mean, they
February.
still. What did it say on Redfall? Do we know? Can we have a quick scrub back and have a look?
think
Did it
it
just
just
say
said
23 or did it say
2023.
early?
Just did 2023. It
Okay,
didn't give
interesting.
a time.
Because then Silksong
Interesting.
didn't get anything, and
Nothing.
then that's when Amanda
Yeah, that's
Amanda
true.
Bond.
That's true.
Is that her name?
I
Then
mean,
she said everything though.
yeah, she did say everything. That's the thing.
I
That's
think
what
we're just checking that.
brings
Yeah,
it in
so
contention
I'm
for
doing
me.
the Redfall right now. I can't quite. I'm just gotta wait for this is the end of the trailer. So
Cool. That's
Yeah.
all good.
My
That's
guess
all
is
good.
Redfall.
Oh, but it
will
was
hit
after
February.
Silksong, right?
so
It wasn't after Redfall.
Redfall coming 2023 is all it says.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
her wording is we'll get.
Yeah, let's have a quick
back
check on
there.
that.
Because Pete Hines said early.
I'm gonna
2023.
unmute this for just a second.
All good.
Welcome to the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase.
We're just checking
Today,
things.
we're doing something we've never done before. For the first time
What does
ever,
she
our
say, Phil?
entire
What does
show
she
is
say?
focused on games you can play over the
Our
next
entire
12
showcase
months.
is focused on games.
You're going to see
You can
more
play over the
gameplay
next
than
12
we've
months.
ever had in a show.
But she said the
Industry-defining
entire
racing
showcase, right?
experiences.
So that
No,
means
I don't-
everything from
I
the
don't
Compelling
think
showcase.
strategy
specify.
titles. And my
So
I would
Because
say that
Silksong
if
can
she
get any
For the
kind
first
of
time
date.
ever, we're
Today,
we're
doing something
focusing the
we've never
entire
done before.
showcase.
For the
There you
first
go.
time
Play
ever, our
within the first
entire
So if the
show
wording
is
is the
focused on
entire
games you can play
showcase.
over
it does say the
next
entire
12 months.
showcase.
You're going to see more games.
So
I
that
get
means
it. Like
everything
Sean
we've
said, we
had
do
in
have
the
to take
show.
that with a pinch of salt as
Industry-defining-
well.
No, of
because obviously
course,
things
of
will get
course.
delayed.
Of course, but I do think it's interesting that, first of all, the delay on Redfall said first half of next year, obviously. And it was one of the stronger looking things here in terms of gameplay, right? So I would be surprised if it was not out by the end of March, put it that way.
I just want to
Yeah.
say
If
that,
it's-
like, because they showed those two first without introducing the show with her,
Mhm.
makes me think that they're specifically saying, within the next 12 months, like June of next year is when we'll see those things. So that,
Yeah, yeah.
that to
By
me
June,
means
yeah.
we won't see Avowed by then.
No,
we
no.
won't see, and that's probably why it wasn't at the show. We
And
won't
this
see
is
Hellblade.
why I think that's where they maybe have the thing of they have said there will be other announcements in the extended showcase, because in there they can say, yeah, we want to give you an update on this, or we want to
Yeah,
do
they could shoot for
a new
2023,
trailer for this,
2024,
right?
2025.
So they could do other things, because there were a few things missing from here that have been heavily rumored as well for even this year, where it was like, oh, okay, for example, no GoldenEye thing, but we know the achievements for that game leaked. We know that people have been playing it.
I'm just surprised
So-
they didn't cut into the trailer at a certain point and go, like, oh, everything from here on out will be beyond the 12-month period or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they
for sure.
absolutely could have done that.
Yeah, I think they could give us an update on like Fable and stuff like that. I think it would have been a good idea.
Yeah. But I think, again, maybe that is what the extended showcase is for, in a way. Do you know
Are
what
they
I mean?
pushing the extended showcase?
They
then? 'Cause
have-
I didn't even
they
know
ha-
about it until this.
I mean, they
until
were
you said
pushing
about
it earlier this week. Yeah, they were
Yeah.
pushing it earlier this week, and they did say it will have updates on things from the showcase as well as new trailers and stuff. So I think what they might do is they'll go to certain developers like Obsidian and they'll talk about Grounded or whatever,
They'll
and
just
then
do more in-depth
Obsidian-
stuff.
It's
and then
spec-
Obsidian might turn around and say, "Yeah, we want to give you an update on Avowed as well." Do
It's
you know what I
spec-
mean?
It specifically says Xbox confirms extended showcase on June 14th with new trailers and deeper looks.
Yeah.
Uh,
So there's going to be stuff there that wasn't here.
It'll be
as
another
well as
90
deeper
minutes
looks.
as well.
Yeah. So they are going to have more stuff, but it is more of a talkative one, like they did last
I was going to
year,
say, is it
where
just going to
they're
be
actually
more?
talking
have an in-depth look of what we've
It
already
does
seen
say
and newer
new
trailers of
trailers,
what we've
though.
seen.
It says new
So-
trailers as well. So is it
I do
in-depth
wonder if when they say new trailers, they mean new trailers for what
or
we've
the
seen.
things we already know?
Yeah, like a
potentially.
They
different
said
look.
that there were some new announcements.
Last time,
Hmm.
last time they did have a couple of announcements that weren't made
don't
in the main
imagine-
showcase.
I don't imagine they're going to have anything big announced there, because that's not where
No,
the
but
eyes are.
But that's what I mean about updates on existing things, right? So it's like, could they do, for example,
It'll just be a guy being like, "Yeah, no, Avowed's
come.
coming along."
Mm-hmm.
It'll
And
we're
maybe
still working
saying
on
when
it.
they're aiming for, kind of thing, or something.
I don't think they'll say when they're aiming for.
No, I think Avow is going to be either the end of 2023 or early 2024.
Here's the exact wording. They will share new trailers, take deeper looks at the news from the Xbox Bethesda showcase, and speak with some of your favorite game creators. The fact that they separate share new trailers and take deeper looks.
It makes
I
it
don't know.
look like it's brand new things, right? Potentially. So that's
I
gonna be
get what
interesting
we're
to
all
keep
saying
an
here,
eye
but
on.
let's be honest. If they had a trailer that was decent for Avowed or Hellblade, it
Yeah,
would've been
yeah,
here.
absolutely.
For sure, but then it depends how many eyes they want to put on that other thing, right? And how much they want to
I don't
push
think
it.
that other thing is going to be what we hope it is or what I can't remember who said it, but it's going to be beyond like the timescale they showed for this one. I think it's just going to be smaller things.
Yeah, I reckon
no,
you're going to
for
see like
sure.
Call of Duty. You're going to see.
I just
the
I just
usual-
wonder whether you could
Madden
get
and
updates
FIFA and
on
stuff.
things beyond that time. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure
they
you could
got
get
the
some
Madden thing,
third-party
didn't they?
things.
I'm
They
sure
said
we'll
the
see
Madden
everything.
thing,
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, back to today's showcase. They obviously they had Redfall out the gate, looked pretty strong. You know, those of us who are into that genre were all pretty happy with it, I think. And then they went on to show Silk Song, which has been kind of long awaited, right?
An
So that is a quite big moment in a way for that crowd. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know how
so
long people have been waiting for that, but
as the resident Hollow Knight superfan here, so we have been waiting since the Kickstarter was done back in what 2015, 2016.
Bloody hell.
Of
so that's a big thing.
The
really,
rewards,
right?
where one of those was a Silk Song expansion. And it was supposed to just be an expansion for Hollow Knight. However, it obviously grew into its own game.
They grew with
When the game finally released in 2017, 2018, they announced that, hey, this became a bit bigger project. It's going to take a while. And the idea was for it to come out in 2019. So it's been 3 years since the initial, hey, it's going to come out in 2019.
Yeah, for sure. So that feels like, even though it's not the biggest game in the world in terms of, you know, a lot of people look at only AAA games, for example, as we found out the other week through online discourse. But that's a big moment for that audience, right? Because if people have been waiting that long for something, it's kind of like, you know, it's just a great. I would love to see Hollow Knight fans react to seeing that for the first time, because I can imagine some of the reactions.
Just
and then what
rewatch
did we
my
get?
reactions for it.
and then what did we go into after that? Obviously, we had Sarah Bond speaking.
High
Then we
on
had-
Life from the creators of Rick and Morty. A
Yep.
new
Yes, yeah, we did.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
That looked interesting. That one. It was like a little bit weird. And
It was a lot weird.
Yeah,
It was a lot weird.
but I think I said at the time, like, it struck me as something that I probably will play. I just don't really know what to make of it. It's like, you know, I can imagine it having quite good writing and being funny and kind of charming and all that sort of good stuff. But I don't really know what the game is from what they showed. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously, you're trying to save the world with weird alien guns that talk to you throughout the entire game.
Yeah. And then what did we?
And apparently,
what did we
beat
move on
weird
to?
bug aliens to death and stab them in the eye and pull their eyeballs out. God, I forgot how gory this trailer was. I'm playing
It's
it in the
just like an
background
animated
while we're talking about
Oh
it.
yeah, I can see it now.
I expect it will be pretty fun, probably a short, bite-sized experience, and I fully expect it to
Yeah.
come to VR a little bit later on in it.
Absolutely,
Real-
absolutely. Because I
real
think
quick.
this one was a launch exclusive, right?
Yeah.
Real quick, Barky the Sea Dog says, which games do you think we'll see in the holiday season, or is that a silly question?
I think he's answered his own question.
There are lots
Um,
of September and October stuff. So.
Obviously, High on Life says October. There was a couple other things. That said
Pentiment was
October.
November, right? The Josh Sawyer game was
Yeah,
November.
I believe
so.
that was November.
An upcoming game wasn't
Grounded.
Plague's Tale.
It said
Plague's Tale
2022.
said this year, right?
Yeah,
Was
so
that September?
2022.
They didn't have a
right.
date. They just had 2022 on it, I think,
Yeah.
Grounded said September for its
Oh, it was
release
Grounded.
date.
for its full release. Yeah. There was something in July as well, if I remember rightly, which is obviously before
There were a
the
couple of
fall,
things in July.
I'm
but
sure
they have
we'll
a few
get there.
things
Yeah.
in July.
The next thing was the whole League of Legends announcement.
Oh, yeah.
Which is
I-
crazy.
I was going to say that one for them, for the PC crowd, and I guess on mobile in a way as well. That is big, right? Bringing those games to Game Pass because they are huge games.
And you
just-
unlock all
So-
the champions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in League of Legends, you can unlock champions using the in-game kind of currency that you earn over time. I don't know if it's changed since the last time I played, but you can do that, or you can buy them. But obviously, where they make most of their money is through the costumes, right? So
Yeah.
even though giving people all access to all of that content,
They're still going to
is
make money,
huge,
right?
They're still going to make a bucket load of money.
And that's the kind of game, like we've spoken about it before on the podcast, me, Sean, and Luke, about how those are the kind of games that do benefit from Game Pass because they're still going to be able to make their money without really losing out on the other end.
From Epic's point of view, it's win-win-win. I don't know what this is doing to draw anyone who's in that community to the Game Pass app rather than Steam.
for sure.
But
I think it could affect things on mobile, maybe.
maybe. But I mean, it's free to play on mobile anyway. So
Yeah, that's true.
You
That's
said
true.
Wait, is League not free to play anyway?
League is free to play.
yeah.
Oh.
But this does come with all the characters, so I get that. It is a perk. But otherwise, if you're playing if you launch it normally, you get there's a rotating selection
Yeah,
of
it's
free
like 8
characters.
characters or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you said win-win-win, and all I thought was win-win Windows. You know?
And then what else did we move on to after the Riot stuff?
Then
Plague
we
Tale.
moved on to A Plague Tale's Requiem.
See, this one was the game that I said to you guys, I literally don't need to see any of this to know I'm going to play it. Like that's
Right.
the thing that's how sold I am on this game.
However,
And that's why it didn't feel like a bigger thing. Do you know what I mean? Like
The-
to me, I think that's why it didn't feel like a bigger thing.
for me, the original announcement of Plague Tale 2 was what got me to play A Plague's Tale. I was like, all right, I've seen bits and pieces of this game, but this trailer looks dope. So I decided to, do the PlayStation Plus version of the game and played through it on PlayStation 5 and fell in love with it. I fell in love with the characters. I fell in love with the progression. I think one of the biggest things that I loved about it is we mentioned Last of Us earlier in comparison. And the way the game handles characters, in my opinion, is far superior to the way Last of Us introduces its side characters, because side characters in The Last of Us have a tendency to
Come and go.
come and go is a great yeah.
Click.
Meanwhile,
Call them
in
red
Plague
shirts.
Tale, it's you kind of build relationships with these characters. So if something were to happen to them, it's like, oh man, it's like a much more impactful moment.
It's more meaningful even outside of main characters, right?
Right.
I get
And
that argument for
now,
sure because of the
that's-
way they handle the characters.
For all the fanboys yelling right now, that's not to say that the game has better writing than The Last of Us. I'm just saying what it does with those characters. And of course, they did a way better job in Last of Us Part 2 as far as having those characters and interacting
Yeah,
with
yeah,
them.
for
But,
sure.
I just loved that I got
I
attached to these
understand what you're
characters
saying.
in Plague Tale.
For me, it's just I said it while I was watching it. It's like I just want to see how they've upgraded the gameplay, because I think it was Sean who said that the gameplay kind of wears a little bit thin after a while,
Yeah, especially
because it
towards the
is
end.
sort of the same thing over and over and over. Which isn't bad when a game is a shorter game in the way that Plague Tale is. Like, Plague Tale isn't the longest game in the world, but having a little bit more variety to the gameplay and having a little bit more
But Jordan, now I can hide
freedom.
under tables. It's almost like Metal Gear.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I'm just intrigued to see what they do gameplay wise with it. But it's one of those that, as I said, for me, I don't need to see any more to know that I'm going to play it. And I didn't even need to see this. Like, I was going to play it anyway. I am intrigued to see if it does make this year, because obviously it's not exclusive, but being a day one Game Pass game, I think that could be quite a big get for Xbox in terms of
And
in
their
a year where
studio's
they
bigger
are.
on this one than last year. They're at
Yeah,
200
absolutely.
I think
people
that's
now.
my big thing is, as it is a third party, I really hope that it being on Game Pass, they are compensating them with enough money, because this isn't a game where it can get a bunch of revenue back from microtransactions. Like, this is a narrative
For sure.
experience.
And I
So-
mean, you would imagine they're giving them a decent amount of money, because they're also paying for the marketing of the game, essentially. Like, this game, as far as I know, hasn't been marketed anywhere except for an Xbox show, and therefore it's Xbox who are marketing it, right?
Paying for the marketing is a huge chunk of change.
So that's a lot of money just for that, and then they will have their Game Pass fee as well. So hopefully they've got a good bit of money there from Moneybags Microsoft, I guess. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see whether it actually makes this year or not, because with it having only 2022 on there, it was a bit like, I think it might have been Luke or Sean who said, well, that means it might not come. Do you know what I mean? It's like, maybe they're not 100% sure on that one. I don't know. I know, Luke, I think you were saying that you're probably going to play the first game at some point on the channel, because you haven't played it before. So what did Plague's Tale kind of seeing the gameplay do for you, and anything at all?
Not really, no, because
it is more your style of game.
Yeah, it didn't really do a lot, because I don't have any kind of a tie to it, because I haven't played it.
Yeah, because
So
you're
it
not
is
already
just,
attached.
Yeah,
Right?
that looks cool, sort of thing. I have no real attachment to it. It's just, I'll check that out at some point, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's fair. That's definitely fair. What did we move on to after that, Sean?
Forza.
Do we know?
Forza
There we
Motorsport.
go. There we go.
grass.
I mean,
Yeah, fantastic.
I think Jeff and Luke and Phil didn't really care about this one, and me and Sean were kind of gonna play it either way.
I'm a fan of simulation racing. Like, I like the more arcade stuff, whether it's like, Horizon, their counterpart there, or
I think
Trailer,
Luke has said it
less
before that
realistic.
Horizon, with Forza, Horizon is now the big one, right? Like, Horizon is the one that
I'm really curious
the
to
casual
see.
audience genuinely cares about at this point.
I am curious to see if the drop off for this means they rethink about actually continuing it.
Yeah.
I do, because Forza Horizon last two have been monstrous.
Yeah, and I mean, this one I think
wonder
just
if,
passed. I think Horizon
Forza
5
Motorsport
just passed
dropped the
20.
number.
What was that?
Yeah, it did. Yeah,
It dropped the
they said it
number.
was no 8, right? It's a brand new.
Yep,
It-
just Forza
They're kind of
Motorsport.
rebooting the series, right? Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I understand the importance of racing sims. There's a huge market for that. I mean, there's a reason that Gran Turismo is like one of the best-selling racing games right now, even with all the discourse around it not looking great and all that stuff.
Yeah, because people still want those games, right? I think
Right.
it's just it's one of those things that those games 20 years ago were the system selling games. They were some of the most popular games that there were. And they've probably remained about the same level of popularity. It's just that other things are so much more kind of popular than them now, right? Like, they are not necessarily the system selling genre anymore that they were 20 years ago. And I think
I mean, they haven't really. There aren't, beyond how it looks and feels, there aren't really many innovations or many interesting new aspects.
and I think that was the thing about back in the day, right? Is back in the day it was the tech innovations that were selling the consoles, and because the racing games were often the first place you would see the tech innovations, I think that is what made them system selling games. Whereas now it's kind of they're there for the people who are already into that genre, but I don't know how many people are gonna go. Like, how many people are gonna see Forza Motorsport and go, "Yeah, I'm gonna buy an Xbox for that, or I'm gonna get Game Pass for that"? Probably not many. Do you know what I mean?
I do
It's-
wonder if it gets to a stage where it becomes a mode in Horizon.
Potentially, yeah.
I think that there's a lot of talk from people who played Horizon. It's like, why do we need motors? I think there's a much
Mm.
bigger
will
community
say-
around sim
Oh, yeah,
racers.
yeah.
The subsurface scattering on those traffic cones would look real
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Real good.
The water
I
was
gotta say,
watery.
like, there is an element. Yeah, Microsoft doesn't really need Forza Motorsport anymore. Like, they could leave it to another third-party team to make the epic racing sim.
Well, I think they'll
Um,
have this out, and then I don't think they'll touch it again like they were when they were leapfrogging.
Yeah, they're
I
not
think-
going to go back
Motorsport
to
and
buy
Horizon. I think that
biannual,
leapfrogging's
right?
done.
I
Yeah.
think that Horizon is going to be their kind of yearly to bi-yearly racing release, and this will be the more every couple of years, let's do a tech showpiece of where we're at now.
And I think that's the right thing to do ultimately. Like,
Well, yeah, because the racing sim market, especially on PC, is still pretty big.
yeah,
So it
Yeah.
is still a good one to appeal
I
to.
do
And if
think-
you have one of these come out every few years where they've like nailed down
Yeah,
how much
exactly.
more
and I will
effective
say,
it is
like,
and
I
efficient and whatnot.
cannot wait to play this game, but I do think it's a massive disappointment that it's not making this year, as a lot of people expected based on kind of just educated guessing, right, of where they may have been in their pipeline. It looks like they've missed that a little bit, because I think they said spring 2023 on on
Yes.
Motorsport,
Something like that. Yeah.
which isn't miles away, of course. And because they've given that window, hopefully they will be able to hit it, and we'll get a more concrete date nearer the time. But yeah, like, it's a weird one, because I think Luke said it before, of these kind of games are a niche, but they are still a very big niche. They just maybe don't have the same impact they
Wide
had
appeal.
in one time in their life.
God, look at those carbon fiber mounts.
What else did we get? Was it because it wasn't Horizon? Well, I feel like we might as well talk about the Horizon 5 DLC while we're here, just
Yeah,
because.
again, another weird one. They're going back to, because like we had a conversation about this not too long ago. We were like, oh, what are they going to do this time? Because they've done Lego, they've done Hot
Yeah,
Wheels,
because
they've done Fast and
because it
Furious,
was kind of exciting, right? Because they've done some
Yeah.
interesting things in the
and
past.
now they're doing Hot Wheels again. It's like, but we've had
Yeah.
this. We've done
Yeah.
this. We don't need this again. I don't think.
And I think they put a date on that DLC release, but I can't remember exactly when it was. I think it may be even this month. I think this was one of the close ones where it was like pretty soon, if I remember
Yeah, I
rightly.
don't know.
Um,
But it's a
but-
weird one. So these have been
July.
like really fun
It's
and
coming July.
interesting. Nice.
July, okay.
Like they've been really fun and interesting and been like fun takes on this sort of
Yeah,
thing. So like,
absolutely.
I probably wasn't even going to play it. I was just more curious. But like it is.
To be
Hot Wheels
fair,
again.
I would definitely jump back into this, but I do think it's a little bit weird that they've done Hot Wheels again.
It feels like
But
they've
then-
run out of ideas with it almost. It's like, could we not? Like, it's in
Yeah.
Mexico,
Hot
so
Wheels
not
could have
something we
approached
could
them
tie
as
in.
well too.
Why
saying,
not
hey,
do
Yeah, that's
Lego
true.
this time? You know?
They did.
I mean, they did Lego
Did they do
last
Lego?
time, right?
Oh man.
Yeah.
I missed the
They
Lego
did.
one.
They also did Top Gear as well, didn't they? Last time.
They did.
Oh
Top
yeah, yeah.
Gear
They did
last
Fast and
time, yeah.
Furious as well.
Hmm
Mhm. So that's the thing, is like, to be fair, this is their first DLC of multiple ones that they will do. It's, I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see how many people do jump into it, because I know they crossed 20 million players on Horizon 5 recently, and I think they said in the same time period Horizon 4 only had 10 million players.
Yeah, but-
So
this is obviously, it's not fully indicative of the community on Xbox or on
Of
Xbox
course.
platforms,
Mm.
but
Of
on
course.
Steam, Forza 4 has a higher concurrent player rate consistently than Forza 5, and it's like,
I mean, yeah.
what does that say about Forza 5? What does it say
Yeah,
about?
yeah.
of course,
I mean,
of
off
course,
the back
but
of that,
again,
my missus did the same. She was really into 5 and then was like, nah, I like 4 better.
Yeah.
Like, it was the
I
same.
do think
I like the seasonal changes in 4 better, like where you could have winter and all that stuff. Like that was my favorite part of 4.
A lot of people
But,
that I talked to, it was all about how soon 5 came out after 4. They were like,
a lot
"Ah,
of
I
people
mean,
said that, yeah. Yeah,
It didn't
I
have the other Forza in between it, so I think that's
Yeah.
where that
it's,
measured
it's
gap.
I would say it was a
interesting
drag and
because-
drop, but Jordan gets really angry at me when I do. So I didn't say that again.
Yeah, I mean, I know that isn't true.
We'll say
that's
copy
why
and
I get
paste
angry.
instead. We'll say copy and paste.
I think it's interesting because I hear you on the Steam numbers, Sean, but as you rightfully say, that's not necessarily representative of the numbers on Xbox platforms because of Game Pass.
No.
Like, how many? Do you know what I mean? And that's the other thing as well is Forza. What I do think is more interesting about that is Forza Horizon 4 came to Steam late, right? Whereas Horizon 5 launched day one on Steam as well as Game Pass.
Sure.
So you would have thought that. Do you see what I mean? Like, you
It's
would have
hard to tell
assumed
because
that people would
either
buy the
way-
new game rather than the old one, but then the old one had more content at the time. So
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I got one point or another. The Forza Horizon 5 community on Steam was massive. Like it was in the top 10 of played games.
Yeah,
and
absolutely,
Now it's
yeah.
off the list, and Forza Horizon 4 is back on the list. And it's like
There-
that's an odd
does
thing, right?
Forza Horizon
it
4
is odd.
have all
It's
of the
really odd.
DLC available for it on PC?
I think so.
No
I would
idea.
imagine so, yeah.
I couldn't
wondering if,
possibly
like-
comprehend the person who buys those games on Steam when you can get them on Game Pass. But
For sure. I've had
just
this
me.
conversation before. I've had this conversation. So what else did we have? So obviously we jumped ahead because Forza Horizon 5 was in a really weird place in the show. They should have just had it immediately after Motorsport, I think. Like that would have probably made more sense.
So we jumped into Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is now
Oh yeah,
simulating
adding helicopters and stuff.
helicopters
Mhm.
That giraffes. It's a whole
and
new game.
gliders.
Oh yeah, Luke called out the drafts.
I like giraffes. Giraffes are cool.
Yeah, Flight Sim's a weird one because I get it. I just don't feel like that announcement needed to be here. Like, to me, that kind of announcement felt like it could have been in the extended showcase. Do you know what I mean?
However,
As like a little thing of
it is the franchise 40th anniversary, as it states in the trailer, which is a pretty
That's
big
true.
milestone. So having it on
That's
a main
true.
stage like that, it's
Mhm.
showing a major amount of respect for the franchise.
for the
And,
franchise.
you know,
it is
there's a lot of people
massively
that really
popular.
like it, and I'm not expecting to like every game. But if
Yeah.
the person next to me is like, "Oh my god," and they're freaking out and like love that game, then
Yeah.
to me that is just as exciting
For
almost as
sure.
if I
For
was
sure.
excited for it.
My
For
friend
sure.
said that they were gonna have to get it just for the pelican from Halo. So, you know.
I
Yeah,
wonder if
yeah,
those
for
are the
sure.
giraffes from Last of Us, and we're seeing them before the world goes to hell.
Oh, imagine. That'd be a sick.
Crossover.
And then what did we go on to after Flight Sim?
We
Overwatch.
then
we
moved
know.
on to Overwatch 2.
Oh
Which,
yes, of course.
Yeah.
That was kind of a weird one because they showed us stuff, but they didn't really show us anything. They just kind of, it's Overwatch. It's like, yeah, we know.
But then they did give was it October 4th, the early access
Yeah.
date for it?
Mhm.
Which is cool, I guess. Like I know that I know some people who have been waiting for that date. Do you know what I mean? So I think having that date announcement is a cool thing, and it is a big community still,
Huge.
even
yeah.
with some of the negative stuff in that community.
I want to
right
know
now.
from the people who actually play Overwatch, was that trailer pointless because it just looked like Overwatch? It didn't look.
Yeah,
like
if you're
it
someone
was
who
showing
has
anything.
played it,
right.
please
So
comment and let us know.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
introduced
like it was a new
new
character,
playable
but like
character.
They
the
did
rest of
like
it was just Overwatch,
a
right?
close up on Tracer in the very beginning and some of the other characters.
Was it her butt?
And I'm kind of just like, wait, is this different from Overwatch 1? Like, is there more detail in these models?
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. It just looked like. I don't
Yeah.
play Overwatch, but it looked like Overwatch to me. It didn't look.
Yeah,
any
weird.
different. It looked like an update, not like they were
I
adding
guess they've
much to
got.
it.
I mean, I think
more
that's why Jeff
texture.
said Overwatch 1.5, right? Because
I mean,
it's
that's-
not.
Yeah, like there's not a lot of big changes with a lot of it. I mean, the team size has definitely been something that's been controversial just because of how like your different roles kind of work. I know that a lot of people, especially if you played Overwatch for the last like 5 or 6 years with a group of that team, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, sorry, Jerry, we got to cut you. You know, like that's been kind of the thing on it. The modes and stuff. Like I think the early access demo or beta that was shown off didn't have enough content to make this 2 on the box feel important, as opposed to like when you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, it's
It is
Overwatch.
weird.
I feel like they could have cut it way down, and it could have been like a sizzle
Yeah.
kind of hit, just a really quick
And then that
one.
trailer.
It is
at the
interesting
end.
that this is the second Activision Blizzard game on this showcase, even without the deal going through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because obviously the other one was Diablo 4, which it's big, right? Like Diablo 4 is a highly anticipated game. Has been highly anticipated ever since people heard about it. Like Sean will know more about this than me, but people have really been waiting for this game, right, Sean?
I mean, it's been a decade since Diablo 3. And this game, I think, got sort of like rebooted. There was some overhaul in the leadership team, I think, at Blizzard at on
because
the
Ron
Diablo team.
Ferguson, he took over.
Yeah, he did come in to take over. Although he took over. Oh no, it was the other ex Microsoft
Mike
exec,
Ybarra is head of
who
Blizzard,
took over
right?
head of Blizzard. Yeah. Oh yeah, are we skipping to Diablo or are we staying chronological?
I feel like we should skip to Diablo as we brought up.
Okay. Yeah, Diablo's going to be a mammoth. I think it was odd in this one to showcase a new character. I think that's probably, again, should have been saved for the extended showcase. And I think Diablo really sings with its cinematics. I can't remember the team that does all of their cinematics, but they're famous. Is it Blur Studio? That sounds familiar. Something like that.
I wonder if the cinematic trailer was pulled because Microsoft was very intent on gameplay being the...
Yeah, I get that, but like it's what Blizzard have always done. Like StarCraft and Diablo and Warcraft have these immense CG trailers.
The trailer that they decided to do, like we were saying earlier, like by the end of it, we were like, "Is this Diablo?" Like we all were very confident in the beginning that it was Diablo, but by the end of it, like it was like, "Wait,
I will
seeing
say
Diablo?
though, I'm glad they showed gameplay because if they hadn't, it wouldn't have had the effect on me it did. Like
the gameplay
they showed a lot.
They showed gameplay. They also showed some like in-game cutscenes, right?
Or, I know that was the strange one, right?
Yeah,
that was the strange one.
But yeah, that game's gonna be a fucking mammoth, especially because it's gonna be free on Game Pass. Well, it's gonna be available on Game Pass.
At some point, yeah, for sure.
I think
whether it's day one or not will depend on, when it's actually coming. Because technically, this did come after they said the 12 months thing, so it should be out by June next year.
And I mean, not stepping into the controversy, I wonder how much of like first-time players for Diablo who are say jumping into Immortal suddenly start seeing banners for 4 in Immortal and then are pulled into this type of game.
Absolutely.
Because if Immortal hits as big as mobile games generally do, this could be the biggest Diablo.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it will be without a doubt. Without a doubt, it will be.
And this
Immortal's
is,
already been downloaded 20 million times. I think that's what they said.
Yeah.
In a week.
So this is the thing for me. After seeing gameplay on Diablo 4, I'm definitely playing this game. And at the end of the day, that's the most you can hope to achieve when you show a game, right? Is that you show the gameplay and someone goes, yeah, I'm definitely playing it now. And for me, as someone who has played Diablo games but has never been the biggest fan in the world of them, to have that feeling of, yes, I really want to play this game is a really interesting one. And I'm excited to play it with Sean, who I'm sure will also be playing it.
Exclusively.
So real quick, Barky the Sea Dog says, it's just funny how they were like, the new character, the Necromancer. And then Necromancer in the chat says, Nucromancer.
That's Jeff. Necromancer is Jeff.
Oh, that's funny.
What about class I'm playing? Barbarian.
Well, they fucked up because in Diablo 3, the Necromancer came 3 or 4 years after launch. Like, it was the final bit of DLC, I want to say.
Yeah.
And it should. I mean, it's a classic Diablo character. It should have been there at launch, but.
Was it
absolutely?
Was it in Diablo 2 or was it in the expansion for Diablo 2?
No, it was in Diablo 2. The expansion characters for Diablo 2 were the Druid and the Assassin.
Wait, I'm confused.
So Sean would know because that's like his favorite game of all time.
Wait, hold on. If it's been in Diablo before, how is it new?
That was the joke during the show.
Yeah. Well, now
they mean new in terms of what was announced for this so far.
For this
there were 4 classes announced: the Wizard, the Barbarian,
right,
and the 2 other ones that I can't remember
the
off
Rogue
the top of my head.
and the Sorceress or Sorcerer.
Wait,
so
Wizard, yeah.
Oh yeah, druid, barbarian. Wait, what? Now I'm confused. Anyway,
They've got the druid, barbarian, rogue, necromancer, and sorcerer
yeah,
or wizard.
Yeah. So it was like this is the 5th and final class for the base game, is what they were saying for today.
Yeah.
So it's effectively
So-
Diablo 2.
So after Overwatch 2, because we obviously jumped ahead to talk about Diablo. After Overwatch 2, was this the section where it was a lot of smaller games like indies and stuff?
There's a few
Kind of.
larger ones chucked in, like updates on existing games. But yeah, we jumped in with Era, History Untold.
Yeah.
I don't really have a lot to say about it. There wasn't really much to say about it.
Cinematic trailer. I don't think there's any
Yeah.
gameplay at all.
Yeah, it's not
Um,
much.
Turn-based
add on that one.
historical
Whoops.
grand strategy.
I think there was Arc 2 somewhere, right, in here as well.
Yeah,
we
Arc
moved on
2
to Elder Scrolls
was in
Online.
there.
Looked at High Isle. That game is
Mhm.
growing strength to strength. To be honest, like it.
Yeah,
People
absolutely.
seem to like it, and it's so weird that it's up against, then followed by Fallout 76, which seems to have a diminishing
Yeah.
return.
Yeah.
With
I'm
the
excited
pit,
to see what
it's
ZeniMax
exploring the
Online
pit,
do
like
next.
for Fallout 76, and the pit is a very popular I mean, their environments are characters. Environment for the Fallout stuff. So I think that the people that are still playing it are absolutely going to love it.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Happy for them.
And then we had
What else did we get in
Just
here?
a
There
quick one
was
that's just
Scorn.
been confirmed is that Stalker 2 has been delayed till next year.
what a
My
shame.
fantasy
I mean,
team just took a massive hit.
expected, but
Mm.
big shame there because that couldn't be avoided because of world circumstances, right? Like they couldn't do anything about that, but that is a shame because so
Didn't
far
they move their
everything
whole
we've seen
studio?
in that game looks amazing, right? so shout out to them and hopefully they can get it done and finished in a good way, in a good manner, and they're kind of looking after themselves and everything. And yeah, I look forward to seeing more of Stalker 2 whenever they're ready to show it, I guess. But yeah, moving on. I mean, I did
Just
want to
Scorn.
talk about. I wanted to talk about one of these indie games in particular, which was the one I forget the name of it, so one of you will remind me. But it's the game by the guys who did Inside and Limbo.
Cocoon.
Oh,
It's
the last
not
case
actually
of
Play Dead.
Benedict Fox or whatever.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Did you guys lie to me?
What?
You guys told me it was by the guys who did Limbo.
Got you good.
No, it's by ex Play Dead guys. It's not.
Oh, you
So
liars!
kind of.
I mean, they had something about Inside and Limbo on there. It said from the creators of Inside and Limbo, so
Wait,
I don't know whether.
Are you talking about the one that we didn't see in the show? The
No, Cocoon.
No, it was
Oh.
Cocoon.
Because there's
Yeah, it's
two.
all
There's
Cocoon.
2 games that are by X
Somerville, you're thinking of.
Somerville.
Yeah,
is the one,
you're thinking of.
Which
Somerville.
I'm
Oh,
surprised
right.
we didn't see today, actually.
Which is, but again, that could be an extended showcase thing if they wanted to save some smaller
like,
stuff.
When
for
they
that
say
show.
from the creators of, they could have just been part of that Play Dead team that made it. They couldn't. They'd not. I don't know if they are necessarily like some.
It is
key
a
figures
Play
from it.
Dead game. It's from the studio behind Limbo.
No, it's not. I just looked at it.
Oh, is that what it says? From the studio
Hold on.
behind Limbo. Okay.
Where is it?
I think I'm
Hold
playing
on,
it
just-
now.
I'll find it.
Annapurna
Interesting.
Geometric.
Annapurna from Geometric,
from,
who are
from
The lead
Jet
small
gameplay
independent-
designer of Limbo.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
there you go.
former
Lead
Play Dead
gameplay
employees.
designer.
So
Okay.
they-
IGN's
it's
got
not
it
actually
wrong.
Play Dead.
You heard it here
Yeah,
first.
yeah. It's former.
So
Play Dead.
IGN's. Yeah, okay. That's still interesting though to me. Like at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
end
It
of the
looked
day,
cool.
all those people on that team, former Play Dead guys, they're gonna make similar style of games, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
this
a
does
little.
look somewhat different, but
It looks very
you
different,
can still,
which is what
you
we
can
like said at the time, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Where it's not actually Play Dead. I guess.
absolutely, but you can still see some inspiration there, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is interesting. I'm definitely interested to play that one. And then what else did we kind of move on to after that weird section
There
where we
was
had?
Scorn.
Oh
We're-
yes, they
we're still
finally gave a
pushing through
date to
that.
Scorn. My
Scorn.
God, I mean, I guess
That's
we
coming out
have to
October
talk.
21st.
Is this going to be
The fa-
another Crackdown 3?
Probably, probably.
Be
But
including
can you
orbs in Scorn?
But can you imagine people's reaction if it
Imagine if
isn't?
you actually have to.
Can you imagine people's reaction if it isn't a terrible game at this point? If it is a game where people go, "Oh yeah, actually, this is all
I
right."
don't know that people
That would
care
be
about
more
scoring anymore,
No, I think
especially with
so
like
as well.
Doom on Game Pass. Like, just
I
put
think
Doom.
it's one of those that took
Yeah, but
too
then you take
long,
a look
right?
at something like Metal Hellsinger, which is like a Doom game, and people are
So
losing their shit, right?
the problem with
But that's got a
Scorn
different hook.
is
I
the
guess.
announcement teaser trailer for Scorn was June 29th, 2016.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
And it looked
that
bad
was-
then, and it looks
It
bad
did,
now.
yeah. It did, yeah.
Wasn't Scorn the game that looked totally different when they originally announced it?
It had
and
a,
then
it had a
Xbox
cinematic
came in.
reveal which looked like an Aliens vibe, you know, like
It did, yeah.
and that
It's
was
just like
like
a
that was
casket or
cool,
something.
and again, that comes from
Yeah.
the H.R. Geiger inspired art of the game.
Yeah.
right? And
'Cause I
then
know
they
it got
did
re-revealed
GameSpot had like a half an hour playable demo of that game, and I shit you not, go watch that thing back, and you'd
Yeah, I
wonder
know.
why anyone would put that out. It was terrible. It was just wandering around these like hallways with really generic
I
puzzles.
remember that,
Nothing,
yeah.
no action
Yeah, I know.
whatsoever.
Yeah, I know.
And
I know.
yeah,
So yeah, no, I'm with Luke. I don't think people necessarily care about it anymore, but it's one of those interesting ones where because it's going to be on Game Pass, you know that some people are still going to play it. So it'd
Well,
be
I'm
interesting to see.
absolutely gonna do at least a video on it. If it's bad, I want to laugh at it. If it's
That's
good,
what I
I
mean,
want to
so it'd
enjoy
be-
it. Like,
So it will be interesting to see what happens with that one, and I am glad that it finally has a date because it did feel like one of those games that would never come out. So therefore, it was quite shocking for it to actually
yeah, I
have
was
a
to say
date.
that's. I think that's the biggest shock of the show is that it's actually coming out.
hmm
Like,
Um,
I thought it was gonna.
and then what
cancel.
else did we move on to? Because like I said, we had a lot of weird games in that section of like Flintlock
Yeah,
and
Flintlock was
um,
next.
So now that we're
Ravenlock.
in order here, Flintlock Siege of Dawn, which is probably like Diablo 4 is probably my favorite thing that we saw today, just because I've been waiting for the longest time. But Flintlock Siege of Dawn is probably like my favorite thing that was new.
okay.
It's like that's my
I mean-
jam. Like
I mean,
I'm excited for
definitely
that.
looks
I'm excited
interesting
for
to me.
what is it? Asterigos Curse of the Stars,
Mhm.
which is a different game that they showed off yesterday. Yeah, Flintlock looks good. Like third person, you know.
And then I think the
Combat.
next big thing was that Team Ninja game, right? Was that the next kind of big thing they showed?
Oh right, yeah,
The next
yeah.
thing was Minecraft Legends.
Oh yeah, they had. Oh yes, of course. Obviously, I'm pretty sure it's not for any of us because I don't know that we're Minecraft fans.
I
But
like Minecraft. I just don't think this is. It doesn't look good to me.
I mean, to be fair though, I think everyone thought that about Minecraft Dungeons, and then people played it and actually really
I didn't like
enjoyed it.
I didn't like Minecraft Dungeons either.
Minecraft Dungeons was
okay.
all right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It was
I
fine.
enjoyed my time with it. I wasn't put off on it. But when they announced new content, I'm like, I don't think I'm.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't necessarily need to go back and play
This
it.
isn't
right?
for
Yeah.
me, but I mean, if people
For
are
sure.
really wanting this from the Minecraft license, then I mean, like,
Do you know what I think is the
Throw it.
clever thing about this? And I can't remember who mentioned it. It might have been Mr. Matty Plays, but using the Minecraft license to almost introduce younger gamers to different genres of game. So, for example, they've done the dungeon crawling thing now. They're doing,
It's like what
we've heard
Mario
about
does, isn't it?
yeah, and I think that
Like the
could be a
Xbox stuff.
clever thing for them to do. Like, yes, it's never going to be for any of us, but I guarantee you, any game that is called Minecraft something is always going to be a big success.
get a Minecraft
Because it's
dating sim
Minecraft,
going
right?
on.
I mean,
Like,
if it was good, I'd
Creeper,
check it
Creeper,
out. Like,
Creeper.
For
it
sure,
just doesn't
for
look like it's all that good. I mean, like Mario did the Rabbids crossover thing,
Yeah,
and that was
yeah.
awesome. Like, you can do these. It's the same with like kids movies. You can do kids movies, but you can do it in a way where they're actually
For
good and
sure.
people can enjoy them
Absolutely,
for longer than
absolutely.
that childhood period.
And then yeah, I think after that it was the Team Ninja thing, right?
We still got Lightyear Frontier.
Was that the
There's,
one
like,
that
that
they,
mech
that they
farming.
showed before, which was the like mech farming type
Yeah,
game?
Mech Rancher.
Oh, right,
Mech
okay.
Du Valley.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that game getting a really dedicated audience. I just don't know how big that audience will be. It's one of those kind of games where there are so many of those now that I don't know how much more space there is for more of them, right? Like, when you've got things like Stardew, etc., I don't know how many more of those types of games. Yes, I know this is putting its own spin on it, but how many more of those types of games do you really need?
I mean, I'd call putting you in a mech suit is a bit of a stretch of putting their own spin on it. It's just you're in a mech suit. That's the only difference. It looks like.
So
It doesn't really look like it's doing anything else interesting with the genre.
So real
sure.
quick, I found that
Mm.
picture of all the games releasing 22, 22, 23.
Okay.
And so for 2022, they have listed Naraka Blade Point, Elder Scrolls High Isle, As Dusk
Mhm.
Falls, Forza Horizon 5 DLC, Somerville, A Plague Tale Requiem, Valheim, Warhammer 40k, Dark Tide, Grounded, Fallout 76 The Pit, Overwatch 2, High on Life, Scorn, Atomic Heart, Gotham Knights, Gunfire Reborn, Persona 5 Royal, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Pentiment, Halo Infinite Season 3, Microsoft Flight Simulator 40th Anniversary Edition, Hogwarts Legacy, Party Animals, Slime Rancher 2, and Callisto Protocol is what they have listed for 2022.
Wait, Hogwarts Legacy's coming to Game Pass?
No, it doesn't say Game
Or is
Pass
that
above
just-
it. It's just this is
Oh,
just
right,
It's just
releases.
saying on
Sony
Xbox,
has
yeah.
marketing on that, so that's definitely not Game Pass.
And
Yeah.
then
Yeah, that confused me there. Yeah.
Mhm.
for 2023, they have Diablo 4, Redfall, Starfield. It's interesting how they have these listed too, because this is in the order I'm reading it from left to right, top to bottom.
Yeah.
Forza Motorsport, Minecraft Legends, Ara History Untold, Wolong Fallen Dynasty, Stalker 2, Flintlock, Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, League of Legends Wild Rift, Valorant, Teamfight Tactics, Legends of Runeterra, Arc 2, Resident Evil 4, Persona 3 Portable, Persona 4 Golden, Replaced, Erebon Shadow Legacy, Ravenlock, Dead Space, The Last Case of Benedict Fox, and Cocoon. All for the next 12 months is what it says. Targeted.
So okay, that's
I'm
interesting.
surprised we didn't see a sizzle reel of some of these.
Yeah,
Yeah, like where
I-
was
like-
Halo? I feel like we should have seen something
they had
from
to
Halo.
go quiet on Halo because they said recently that they were still
In a
not going to
mess.
hit a certain thing again, right? So they had to go quiet on it. I do
Messy.
think some of the smaller games, potentially like Somerville, etc., they could be saving for new trailers in the extended showcase because those are games we already know about that maybe they could be like, oh yeah, we've got a release date for this. Do you know what I mean? Maybe Atomic
would
Heart
have
is
been a
one of
good one
those
to
as well.
see. I think
Hmm.
Atomic Heart should have been here because people are actually
and
interested
same
in
with
that game.
is it Bright Memory Infinite?
Yeah.
Oh, right,
That was
yeah.
another like game that was shown off
Mm.
when the Xbox One first came out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Series X.
So yeah, I don't know. And like I said, they had a lot of stuff, but I think it was Luke who said it during the showcases. Like, how many of these smaller games are we actually going to remember? It's not to say that we won't play any of them. Like, I think some of them I will definitely play, but none of them I'm gonna think back in 6 months and go, "Oh yeah, I remember this game." Or do you know what I mean? Like a lot
Yeah,
of these
I
smaller
honestly
ones,
believe a lot of the stuff in the middle would have been better served in its own sort of coming to Game Pass soon sort of
smaller.
presentation.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
you
sure they'll
named
get
a bunch
another.
of those, and I couldn't have told you what they were until you described them.
I mean, there's some that we haven't mentioned yet. You know, Gunfire Reborn,
Yeah.
The last
Makara
case of
Blade
Benedict
Point.
Fox looks great.
Ravenclaw?
We didn't talk about Obsidian's smaller game, the Pentiment.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I did mention that earlier, obviously, when we were talking about release dates, because that's coming in November.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited for that one. Like, there's there's some interesting stuff in there for everyone. Like,
yeah.
it just doesn't feel like an E3 show. I know it's not an E3 show. It just doesn't feel like the big summer.
I mean, it's
blowout.
weird because I think that Team Ninja one, I'd be interested to see how people reacted to that because Team Ninja is quite a popular developer at this point. Like, people really do. Do you know what I mean? Like, there are people who are really hardcore Team Ninja fans.
They probably would have done what I did and been like, "Oh, is this a new Neo?" And then it wasn't. It's like, oh, okay.
But
At first
that's
I
not
thought it was like
necessarily a
another
bad
Ninja
thing,
Gaiden
right?
game.
Like, I think people would be intrigued by a brand new IP from them. So that's not a bad thing. they obviously then, after the Team Ninja thing, they officially announced the partnership with Kojima publicly. That's an interesting one because I think it's like having that public acknowledgement of it is like it just lets people know it is a real thing, right? And because it's like, I think it's you who always says, Luke, when something's rumored is only rumored, right? Like, no matter how credible it is, until they come out and say it, it doesn't matter. And I think I was mentioning it in the pre-show that I think for Xbox, getting a Kojima game is quite a big thing, because I do think that Kojima is still a massive name.
I think it would have been a big thing if he was solely PlayStation for this entire time. He's only made one real Sony exclusive. I really don't think it's that big of a deal.
He's also stated that he doesn't want to be acquired. He wants that complete freedom.
Yeah. He wants the freedom.
I like it. It's cool for Kojima fans who only play on Xbox, but outside of that, I really don't think it's that big of a deal.
But I mean, even in business terms, like, I wonder how much Kojima might help them in Japan, because Kojima games do well in Japan, and
it's the system's actually selling in Japan. Like, they're pulling.
They're selling better than they have done in the past, right? Yeah. Even though it's not huge numbers, they're doing significantly better than they have done.
So the thing I think is interesting is supposedly he's working on Death Stranding 2, which, from what we understand, is going to remain a PlayStation exclusive since it's part of the PlayStation family in their website and stuff.
I think
they own the IP.
They own the IP. Yeah, they own the IP. I think the biggest report I heard on it was that potentially it will release day one on PC this time as well, so it won't be like a staggered release. Because maybe PlayStation are kind of co-publishing it with whoever published the first game on PC.
I really think it would have been far more impactful if they did what Sony did in 2018 or whenever they first showed off Death Stranding, as if they had a trailer as well. Or they had
have something to actually show, right?
Instead of just being like, "Oh, Kojima's here." It's like,
or do you know what? I agree with you, but I also think the other side of that is, if this hadn't leaked at all and nobody even knew that it was a possibility, I think even just then, just announcing it would have been a bit more surprising.
Again, I think for the Kojima fans, I don't think for anyone outside of that, it's that big of a deal. I think it would have been more of a hook if they were like, "Oh, sick! It's a horror game. It's this. It's whatever."
Yeah,
right.
Given a little bit more information about what it is, right?
That's the other thing is we have the leaks about Overdrive, but there are a lot of rumors speculating or Overdose. Thank you. That is not a Xbox exclusive.
Yeah, that might not even be the game. So it's interesting to see what happens with Kojima here.
Yeah, so he's got 3 games in development, and he has nothing to show at this show for the Xbox game they're working on. Like, how far out is this?
Well, I mean, we know
if
it's
he had something to show, it would have been at Keeley's.
2 years ago was when we heard about that letter of intent,
and that was before the game had even started being worked on, right? Yeah. So at that point, this game maybe has only been worked on for 12 months. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, but then it feels a bit redundant. Like, you could do it in a different way.
I mean, it's not, though. I don't think it is. I think that's quite...
I really don't think putting Kojima on a screen means anything to anybody outside of Kojima fans.
But I don't think it has to either, right? Like, that's the thing, is sometimes
it felt kind of pointless. It was just like, it was cameo. That's what it was.
Yeah,
and like, we criticized the Jeff Keighley for having the Rock and stuff like that. This was the same thing. It was just Kojima popping up and being like,
I don't agree with that. No, I don't agree with that. See, I don't.
Yeah, that's true. He wasn't shirtless in his gym.
I don't agree with that,
like,
because the difference is Kojima to gaming. The Rock is just a celebrity, right? Like, I don't.
But he didn't do anything for gaming here. It was just an appearance. He didn't add anything.
This throws me back to my point about Persona, in that, like, if you were even remotely interested in Kojima, you're on a PlayStation. I'm not saying you may be PlayStation first, but you own a PlayStation. Like, the idea of Kojima now doing something with Xbox, it's kind of like, I would be happier if Kojima was moving to more like an open platform. Like, I'm making a non-console exclusive.
Well,
that's a lot more interesting than, like, I've taken a big paycheck from Xbox because Like
It's probably
no,
only
I-
because of the cloud stuff as well. If
Yeah.
Sony had good cloud infrastructure, it would probably be everywhere. It probably just wouldn't be an exclusive thing. It is just because
Yeah,
Microsoft have the cloud stuff that he wants
Yeah.
to play around with.
yeah.
Like, I'm curious to see what that means, but outside of that, I really don't think.
I
No,
think
I
it's
get that.
safe
I-
to
Kojima fans,
assume
it
it's
doesn't-
along the lines of what he was doing in Death Stranding, with like this shared world that is constantly being
Go on.
developed.
I
That
think
makes
it's
a lot
one of
sense.
those. It's one of those things with Kojima where I just keep thinking about the Japanese audience, and obviously we don't know.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. They're Kojima fans. Outside
Yeah.
of Kojima fans, it doesn't mean
No,
anything. I
no,
don't think.
absolutely. But for Xbox, any way of penetrating that Japanese audience is a huge thing. Whether that's huge for us or not, for them as a brand and for their community, that's a huge thing.
I think
Right?
Kojima has that much sway in Japan.
Yeah, I don't think so.
In Japan, I
I
think
think
he does.
I don't
I
think
think
he
it
does
comes
anymore.
down to the exact same thing where it's like if you're not a fan of X, you're a fan of Y, and that applies, I think, to everything.
Sure.
But I mean, like Jordan's saying, is like this is a big pull for the Japanese part of Xbox because we have one of their like
Yeah.
biggest creators.
It is one of the
essentially.
biggest creators of games in Japan. Like there's no way that anyone could tell me this is a small thing because it isn't.
I'm not saying it's a
it's
small
not-
thing. I
yeah,
think
no,
it's like
no.
it's a cool. I'm actually excited for whatever he's going to do with the cloud. Like I think that's cool. Play around with this new tech that no one else is really, at least publicly, playing around with. My point is like, I don't think your core Xbox player cares, and I don't think Japan cares. I like the fact that Death Stranding was a massive hit outside of Japan and not in Japan says a lot. The fact that PlayStation isn't even doing that well in Japan says a lot, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I think,
Japan is
like-
not about Kojima.
Like, my bigger point was the effect on the showcase as well. Was it did nothing. It was just Kojima's here. It's like, cool. Show something. Give us a hook. Give us something to go on. Because at the minute we have nothing but Kojima's working on a game which we already knew. It doesn't
We
change
did, but
anything.
again, official. You say that, Luke, but then in other cases you say official confirmation still.
No.
makes a
But we
difference.
knew he was working on a game regardless.
No, we didn't.
Whether it
because
was
letter.
no, but
because
we did.
letter of
No.
intent-
Listen. We did, regardless of it being Xbox exclusive or not. We knew he was working
Yeah.
on a game. The
Yeah.
only thing we now know is that his Xbox is like, cool. That doesn't change anything. He hasn't shown us anything. There's no hook to this. It is just
I
Kojima's here.
think some of this
It didn't really
kind of
do
falls
anything.
into the same line of like controlling the narrative where Xbox is able to tell us that
Yeah.
Kojima's working with them as opposed to learning it from a Polygon article
Yeah.
or like
precisely.
where Bethesda was hounded for years about Elder Scrolls and like, hey, we're making Elder Scrolls 2027, you know, and then people were like, wait, why are you telling us now? I'm like, because it probably would have leaked next week.
But I think the difference is it did already leak, so we already knew it.
Yeah.
It
This-
wasn't.
this
They're not.
showcase
They're
was
not really
together, like,
controlling
what,
the narrative
A
here.
month and some ago.
They are just reaffirming the narrative and trying to
Of
take
course,
control
of
it, which
course.
they're not.
But
I would like to point out that I just have the screen frozen on Kojima right now, and he's just staring into everyone's souls watching.
I think it's
No,
one
that's
of
him
those
trying to
things
like
where-
connect to the cloud with us.
Castlevania.
I get.
He's trying to
I
synchronize
guess for
with us.
me, it's just the fact that when I watch these showcases, I'm not just thinking about it as Jordan the gamer, right? I'm trying to think about it as from the business side. How do these things affect Xbox and their
I
business?
mean, if you think about
like
and
Jordan
I
said,
think,
the board and
Kojima's
market
game
shares,
didn't do well in Japan last time. It didn't do well.
but that's his only game that didn't do well in Japan.
But that's the
One
only game he's had has solo. Like you can
But
only
yeah,
go on
yeah,
what
yeah,
you've done
but-
for me lately, sort of thing. He
So-
hasn't.
No, I don't
beyond
agree.
that.
Regardless of that, though, I do think that from a shareholder perspective and the business side of it,
Yeah.
hearing that Kojima is working on a
It's
game
a
on that
huge
console
thing,
is a
right?
huge thing, and it will
Yeah.
boost the ability for them to do more in Japan, whether it actually increases sales or
Yeah,
whatever
precisely.
else.
It
Like,
still
I'm not saying
opens a
it's
door for
not-
them
able
that
to do.
wasn't previously open.
Sure. I'm not saying it's not a big thing. I just don't think it's as big as people are making it out to be. I don't think Kojima is as big of a deal as people.
That's
think
where
he
you
is
are
these
with
days.
Kojima right now. That's not where everyone is with Kojima.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I think. I'm not saying
Yeah.
this is what fact is because there's no way of knowing that.
Yeah.
I do not feel like Kojima is as big of a deal as he used to be.
I just think
I
the
mean,
man
his
needs
games still
rest.
sell as much as they ever have, so that's
I think
But that
So that's
doesn't mean a
interesting.
lot
But
because
I think also with Death Stranding,
there are more
it was
gamers
a
now as
very
well.
different
So.
game than
Sure.
what we saw for Kojima over the last
absolutely. And I
users,
think
right?
that's where it does go to what Luke is saying, right? Of the reason this one maybe isn't as impactful is because you have nothing to go on right now. Like it's a
exactly.
huge moment for the business side, but it's not necessarily a huge moment for the gamer right now because they don't know what they're going on. And as Sean said, most gamers who are Kojima fans probably have a PlayStation or a PC anyway. So they're not gonna, unless they're in Japan specifically, a game being Xbox exclusive isn't going to make them buy an Xbox necessarily because they'll be able to. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
In
but
And it's a
Japan,
I
cloud
don't
game
it's
too,
See,
right?
honestly like. I think this game is going to be more interesting because of what the game is than because of its Kojima. That's and I mean that. I think Kojima's heart and soul is in his narrative horror games. Like that's. And then this is going to be something that he's interested in. It's probably going to be run by someone who's not Kojima. It's probably just got his name. He's an executive producer on it.
I mean, he
And
No, I
did
mean,
say it's something that he
maybe.
always wanted to do, so who knows?
I mean,
yeah, of
everything
course
we
he's
know
going to say
about
that.
it
I
is
mean, we
he's
also got Todd
directing the
Howard saying
game.
that he did Fallout 76. I mean,
just-
it's
I just feel like he needs to sleep. Just give him a recliner, let him chill, let him watch movies,
I don't know,
read
like
books, listen to music.
ultimately, it's one of those things where when we eventually see this game, we'll be able to have a clearer distinction on
And
how much it actually means.
It's
well,
like
that's my overall
Sakurai.
point as well. Like, it was just a guy showing up. It wasn't.
Yeah.
There was no hook to it. It was just.
So would you
hello.
agree then that if it didn't leak and people didn't already know that he was working on something for Xbox, that it would have been a bigger thing?
100%.
Would you say that?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I really don't think so because he has.
100%. Yeah.
I don't know
think-
because I think if
He's
Death Stranding
so
did
connected
well,
to PlayStation. He's so connected to PlayStation,
I don't
even
know.
outside of Death Stranding, because he had obviously Metal Gear 4 was PS exclusive as well.
Was it?
And he's just Metal
I
Gear
don't
4
remember.
was
Yeah,
never on
There
another
was no deal
platform,
signed for that. It was mainly
but they just
just
kept it as
they didn't have
exclusive.
enough
Yeah,
time.
All of his
Mhm.
games were PlayStation exclusive, but a few of them went to Xbox later. You had the Xbox
He
collection that
he
came.
ported
Right,
Metal Gear
sure,
2
sure.
and 3, right?
Yeah, the
Sure.
subsistence and substance versions.
So
It's
he
kind of like
has
the
always
Netflix
been.
thing. It's kind of like
Yeah.
the Netflix thing where they've like, oh, we've signed to make a movie with this guy. It's like sick.
Until
was
you
it?
make it doesn't matter,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Like it could end up being absolute dog shit. Like it could look
Absolutely,
terrible.
no,
We don't know.
absolutely.
Maybe
And I
he
do,
saw Inscription, and now he's like,
I
I'm gonna
do
make my card game.
100%. I 100% get that part of it, and I actually think you are correct.
Because like
My-
from where I'm coming from, I don't care about the business side of stuff. I care about the games. And
Yeah.
he didn't show me a game. It's just a dude on a screen. I don't
Yeah.
No,
really
for sure.
care.
And also, just
Even
for
if
some added context, going back to what I was saying, right? Metal Gear Solid 5, in the year it came out, was the 20th best-selling game in Japan that year, and Death Stranding was the 21st best-selling game in Japan. He's not that relevant over
He
there
doesn't-
anymore, you know?
I don't think he ever like he doesn't appeal to Japan. He always tries to like appeals
Yeah,
to the
he
he's
makes
got this weird fascination with
Americana.
America.
He makes Americana, right? He borrows the actors, the voices, the cinema, the music. He loves
Yeah.
America.
But the other thing is, like I said, I'm not. For me, again, it's that other element of it's not even just about the consumer. It's about the fact of it's not just about selling consoles over there. It's about if they work with Kojima and Kojima's telling other Japanese developers, "Oh yeah, Xbox and Microsoft are amazing to work with." What happens? They get more Japanese
I feel
developers.
like Atlas is a bigger deal with that than Kojima is.
But we got
Yeah,
that. We got
maybe.
that too with Persona. Like I feel
No,
like
no,
that's
but that's
a
what I
huge
mean.
window.
Atlas is a bigger kind of deal in that sense
Yeah,
than Kojima is.
I think it is, but it isn't because it's Sega and Yakuza was their kind of opening door. So they had all the stuff with Yakuza that they did with Xbox and Game Pass,
That was
But
like
it's
massive
more
moment,
inherently
right? Yeah.
Japanese.
which I think
That's
just
true.
opened the
That's
door
true.
for Persona. So I don't know if Persona is necessarily as big because they already had the window there.
No, but I think it's bigger than for that sort of thing than Kojima is
Sure.
because Kojima isn't he's Japanese. That's really the only tie to Japan that he has. Everything else
Yeah.
is very American focused. He's
Yeah, I know what you
absolutely
mean.
enamored with the American
him.
culture and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Whereas
sure.
all the Atlas games, God, I hope that means Catherine's coming over. That'd be
I'll tell you
sick.
what though, I mean that talking of Persona, like again,
Wait,
obviously those games have been elsewhere for ages, but that is big for Xbox, right? To finally get those
Did-
games on their platform.
did Full
Maybe?
Body not release on Xbox?
I don't
No,
think
I don't
so.
know.
only the first
don't-
release of Catherine did.
Oh,
That second one with that third girl
I only
that
say
they
that because
added
I
in.
want to play it. I haven't played. I've played the original
Really?
Catherine.
I'm
Huh.
playing full body right now.
Nice.
Awesome.
I did not know that. Full body, yeah, full
So
body. was
I've
great.
got a few minutes left. So I feel like we should talk about what they ended with, which was obviously Starfield, which many, many people have been waiting to see for a very long time. And they did show gameplay. And we all feel a little bit different on this, I think. So, Luke, we'll start with you. How did you feel about Starfield?
I am about 100 times less interested in this game now.
Yeah, because it's
I-
exactly what
I
you
think this
didn't want,
trailer-
right?
Well, not even necessarily. Like I would like it to be not Fallout in space, but it literally
And
looks
that's what
like
it is, right?
it looks
Yeah.
exactly like Fallout. It doesn't look like they've changed anything bar a couple of guns. And
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the
I'm with
alien
you on
worlds
that.
we saw didn't look like alien worlds. They just looked like human inhabitants just spread over an entire planet. Like
Even
it
worse,
did not look
it looks
interesting.
like Fallout environments.
yeah, for sure.
It
And,
did
like,
look a bit
there was-
rusty. The whole thing looked a bit like I was
Muddy,
hoping
Yeah,
for
it
really like
looked bad.
high fantasy.
Even
And,
in
like,
that wide shot where there was like a quote unquote forest, there was like 3 trees per like 10 square
Yeah.
feet.
There's
was
that
just
bright,
clusters.
colorful one where there was like that really tall.
They
creature
did
and
show
stuff.
some very
But
different
that was just high
environments as well, yeah,
contrast
to their credit.
forest. Like it wasn't. None of it looked alien. None of it looked new. Like it just.
But then also, one thing I will say is, and maybe this can be, this is a negative potentially of how they showed the game in that sense, is when they started to talk about the scale of the game, though, it's very, very likely that what we've seen is very little of this game, right?
Sure.
I don't
in
think so.
terms of.
I
They said
don't. I
you could
really
land
don't think so.
anywhere
I
on the
think.
planet.
I'm
Yeah,
not saying
I think
necessarily
all
in
these
terms of
planets
how
are
it
gonna
plays,
look-
but in terms of how they look and
I
environments.
don't.
And
I
stuff.
really don't think so. Because
'Cause
otherwise
we
we
did
would have
s-
seen some.
we-
We would have seen some variety, and it just looked
We
like
talked
different biomes of Earth.
a little bit about them leaving Earth and having it be a canned animation transition.
Oh yeah, that was odd.
Watching that beginning sequence again, it's also a canned animation sequence landing on the planet. Like it's like a coming
Which
in,
we've
flying
had
and
since like the
land.
PS2. We've had
Yeah.
that. I played Ratchet and Clank, and they did that in
Yeah,
like
yeah.
2000.
I'm saying it right now, and I'm gonna put my neck on the line. The whole you can go anywhere on the planet thing isn't what it sounds like. It's not going to be No Man's Sky. I just don't.
I don't think
I
so.
agree. I think that's probably true as well. However, if it isn't true and you can actually go anywhere, then that's mightily impressive,
I think
in my opinion.
I think
But
the
what's
biggest
going
thing
to
for
be there?
me,
You know.
yeah. I think the biggest thing for me is nothing about this was original in any way,
Yeah,
shape,
it
or form.
was literally
It was all
Fallout in space,
either
right?
well, not even that. It was all either Fallout or it was Mass Effect or it was No Man's Sky. It was like there's nothing that was like, oh, that is I must call it Elden Ring. Then it is that is Starfield. There was nothing about it that is Starfield. It is all just
and
borrowed
when you
elements from
first
everything
show a
else, and
game,
nothing
and when
feels
you
like
first show a game, if you've got something in your game that is this is the Starfield thing,
yeah.
you show that element, right?
Yeah. There is nothing about it. It just
Maybe
looked
they're
like a
saving.
hodgepodge.
Maybe they are saving that to show
I don't think
later
so.
when they're more ready to show more.
Yeah,
But
I
then
don't-
it could just be. But then it could just be a case of this game is just Fallout in space.
It
Yeah,
looks
and
like
I-
this is
right.
made by committee. It looks like this is like, oh, this did well, this did well, this did well, so we're going to put this all in here.
It could
doesn't
still
look like
have
it
a
was
lot of
made
charm.
I
it
also
could still
don't
be
think
really
that's a
fun.
bad thing. Yeah, that's
But
what I was gonna say.
My
So-
fear is whether it's a fair comparison or not. We do live in a post Red Dead 2, a post Cyberpunk,
Absolutely.
post Witcher 3 world where it's
So
just
do
like
Bethesda games connect in the same way?
it's
when
not
they're
like I'm
doing the
sure they are
same
going to
thing?
hit. I'm sure this game is going to hit, and there's going to be people who love it, and it's going to have a community. It's going to get better over time. They're going to patch it, DLC, like all the shebang that we know from every Bethesda game in the history of like since they've done Elder Scrolls, or since Fallout 3.
I think one of the things that makes this feel so bland to me
Mhm.
is the fact that we saw the game that we were talking about earlier with the guns that like talk to you and each one has like
The alien guns.
Yeah,
and
right,
static
yeah.
animations and stuff, and all that stuff looks really neat. Meanwhile, we get to see a mining gun, and the mining gun,
yeah.
literally the only animation on it is a little tiny 2D digital animation
I
on the
think
front
it
of
was-
it, and the
I
rest of
think
it
it
is
was
like,
just
why are the
shapes.
guns
said it.
shooting regular bullets? They're not
Yeah.
even lasers.
I was
They
gonna
are just
say,
regular human ass
Well,
bullets.
They might have lasers. I mean, that's one type of bullet or one type of gun.
I was
But-
gonna say that I think it was Phil who said while we were watching it, like, it's weird because it is a space thing, but it looks like they've gone for a super grounded one. Like a
Yeah, but
really
they said
grounded, serious.
They said it in 2333 or
Precisely.
something like that,
It's
right?
such a
Have
weird
you
decision,
seen the
right?
space rockets we're sending into space now? And they want
I
us to
know.
make these little rust bucket ships where you're like sticking on cabling and rusty looking rockets. It's like, nah, this doesn't it was a bit, the logo and everything, the key art, some of the concept drawings that they've given us, the music, like the little sort of vignettes they've been showing us.
Yeah.
It doesn't match what they're showing us. Like with what we saw today.
How colorful those concept art vignettes are, and how much like energy and like feeling that they produce. The game is the exact opposite. Like looking at the character model right now, there's nothing moving on that character model, nothing at all. It's so static. Like when you look at a game, like not to call it, like give benefits to Call of Duty, but when you look at the guns in that game, they're standard military rifles, but you've got like personalized dingly danglies hanging off them and different moving parts, and like this, everything feels so bland and one note from what we're seeing here.
And that's like the starting outfit too. So like you might end up getting a whole bunch of like gear and loot that does do that detail.
Well, this is the other thing.
Even your character looks like it's just a higher res No Man's Sky character.
Yeah,
like there is nothing about this that looks original in the slightest. It is all just borrowed assets.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not because they've made these.
Not literally, obviously, but like it is literally just everything's borrowed from something else. Nothing is. Yeah. You cannot point to anything in this game and be like, "Oh, that's Starfield."
Yeah.
You can point to the logo. That's it.
And I guess that's the thing is, obviously, we have to kind of cross our fingers and hope that the cases that the things that make it Starfield, they just have decided not to show yet because they're trying to give you your first look rather than your definitive look. But is it?
This reminds me of seeing Halo in 2020, was it, where we got that really rough trailer? And everyone was like, oh, this kind of looks cool, and then over the following week everyone started to break it down and be like, this isn't acceptable, and then we get a massive delay and we get like, oh, we're going to go back to the drawing board and make sure this is up to scratch.
I don't think it's quite that bad, but I know what you mean.
That trailer was rough.
Yeah, it wasn't running well in that trailer. There was some strange animations.
Again, I think, like I said it at the time, though, it's this weird thing where it's like we don't know how old that build was.
Sure.
It could have been.
But we've only sure, but we've only got to go off what they're showing us.
No,
and they thought that was acceptable to put in front of us, and it doesn't look good.
No, of course, but then I guess it's one of those things where it's like any game, right? Like they could show it again in 6 months. And it could look completely different because it could be a much newer build of the game.
They did just show a zero-G gunfight, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Well, they showed that what?
A zero gravity gunfight just now in the trailer. It's like it's like half a second of them floating in the air and shooting at each other. But you know what? I'm in.
My thing is, and I think I said this to Luke and that a while ago. Is I was quite happy for it to just be Fallout in space. So I'm happy enough with that. That doesn't mean I wouldn't have wanted more, but I'm still happy with Fallout in space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll play it. I'll enjoy it. If it is Fallout in space, like that's a cool. That's enough to sell me. But I think and I don't want to speak on his behalf, and you can have your own opinion. But I think what Luke and I are trying to say is like, on Xbox, we're just crying out for a new experience.
Yeah,
and we're so short on new experiences to be had on Xbox.
My problem with calling it Fallout in space is the fact that it doesn't have the personality of Fallout.
That's true.
Fallout has just this weird, goofy, over-exaggerated
They go real
universe.
goofy with it, right? Yeah.
This felt really sterile.
Yeah.
It didn't there was nothing to it. It was just there was just nothing to it. It was hollow. There's no depth to it. They were just like, even towards the end, they were like, look how big it is. He's like, yeah, but how deep is it?
Yeah.
I don't care how big it is. Yeah. I want stuff to do. I don't want to just travel from planet to planet.
Outer Worlds was a game that was full of personality and different environments and a world, but it wasn't huge. It didn't need to be huge because it had the depth to go along with what they were
and I think that's the thing. I think Luke mentioned it while we were watching, is like, for a lot of people, how big a game is isn't a selling point anymore. because games have got too big.
Well, they're all
a lot
doing
of
that.
the time.
Every open world does that. It's like, look how big we are.
Um,
It's like, yeah, but give me stuff to do. Interesting
Yeah,
stuff to do.
absolutely. And like I said, my hope would be just based on the other things they've talked about that I don't think they like things they didn't show here, but they've definitely talked about as being part of the game. So, like the relationships with the different factions and stuff like that. Like we haven't seen any of that.
We
Ultimately,
have.
this was
We've
the
seen that
first
in
look.
Fallout. We've seen it in Skyrim. We've
No,
seen
but
it
what I
but how
mean
it's
is we
played here is
we haven't seen it here, right? And we haven't seen what that means within this world of Starfield. And maybe that's what makes it different. Do you know what I mean? It's like we say that we haven't seen like the colourful big places and stuff. That's because they showed us one small settlement, right? We haven't seen any of the bigger places. We don't know what they have yet.
Sure,
So
but I can only judge on what I'm being shown. I can't judge on what might be there. So I'm just going on what's being shown.
of
And what's being
course,
shown
of course.
isn't something that gets me excited in any way, shape, or form, really.
Well,
No, for
so
sure,
if you look
for
at
sure.
the way they revealed Fallout 4, right? Like you go
Mhm.
back and you
Mhm.
look at that, and there's so many great moments. Like when you first
Yeah,
get in the
yeah, yeah.
mech, and then he starts jumping around, and you're like, "Whoa, wait, we can do
Yeah.
what now?"
Yeah.
And you know, it had those wow moments. And yes, sure, it has something we already know, something we expect. So when they show us something new, we're like, "Oh wow!" But
Absolutely.
but there was nothing like that in this trailer that made me go, "Oh wow!" I mean, yes, the
No,
character
no,
models look
absolutely.
better. The lighting definitely is better.
But the
Um,
only thing that's different is the space battles.
right.
Yeah.
Really, that was the only thing. But then,
Yeah, for sure.
like, that's
Of what
not
we've seen
that's
so
not a
far.
new thing, and they didn't make
Now, if
they didn't make it look amazing or incredible or anything like that. It just was a thing in that trailer, sort of
Yeah.
thing.
if you can get
Yeah,
into
yeah.
a firefight on a space station and you can fire a bullet into the sidewall and have a guy get sucked out the bullet holes, I'm in. You know,
Yeah,
that's the moment
That'd
I
be sick.
needed in this trailer.
That'd be dope. It just feels like they've gone scope over anything else. It doesn't look
Maybe. Yeah,
like
no, I'm
like
not
like Phil
definitely
said.
not
There's
against it.
it just lacks character. It lacks anything
Yeah.
that is immediately like.
Yeah.
There's nothing to grab onto. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like.
And the worst part is
It
I'm
just-
still gonna buy it and I'm still gonna play it and I'll probably love it.
Why would you buy it?
That-
Get it on.
What?
Get it
Well,
on
you know what I
Game
mean.
Pass.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Well, that's the funny thing, right? Like, I would be interested to, because I'm sure we're all gonna play the game to some degree.
But then
I'd
there's
be
no. We
interested
don't
to
lose
get
anything
back
now.
together. Like when
I
we
think
do
if
play
at the
it.
minute, if it
Mhm.
was I had to buy it, I wouldn't be.
Okay,
I'd skip it for
interesting.
now.
Interesting.
It,
I
it's not
would be
selling, but it's on
interested
Game
to see
Pass. I'll
like
try it.
when this game does eventually come out, though. Like even if it is just Fallout in space, just to go back to that kind of comparison, I wonder how many people will still be very happy with just that. Do you know what I mean? Like how many
Yeah, like-
people are in the Luke camp of I wanted more from this because it's a brand new thing, and how many people are in the camp
that's
of
what-
yeah, I'm actually quite happy for it to just be
that's-
Fallout in space.
That's kind of the thing I kept hearing about people being really
Mm.
excited about. Is because it's new. It's a new
Yeah.
IP. It was the first new thing they've done in over 20, 30
It made it
years.
feel like they were going to go real different, right?
And it just isn't. It's not new.
Yeah.
It's just a new kind of filter.
It's
over
a
it.
new setting
skins.
for the same type of game. Yeah.
So for me, like
yeah.
it comes down to like again, it's like this is Bethesda. People have expectations of Bethesda. So I think
Mhm.
for like people like for myself, it's like I was expecting a Bethesda game, and that's kind of what I've seen here. So I mean, yeah,
I was going to say that.
but
Like,
there's
shooting for the moon for like new stuff, of course. But
I
again,
think the
too, with
difference-
Where's the intelligent super mutant? Where's the robot detective? Where's the interesting stuff that makes me go,
But
oh, okay, this is interesting. This is cool.
I think the difference here as well is, and you weren't going to see it with this game because it's too early, but it is they're going to be different under Microsoft. They're going to be able to do what they wanted to do. They've got
Yeah, of
unlimited money. It's like, but it doesn't look any different.
Give me
There
a
is
talking
no,
space
no,
dog.
but again,
this game was
as
being
you
made before that.
No,
as
but
you
that's
just
that's
said
what I
I
just
don't
said.
think they can hard
That's-
skip
yeah.
it just because.
No,
they
but
have that.
that's why I made that statement first. Like
Yeah.
that's, and it, like I said, it just doesn't feel new. It feels like they're just reusing stuff they've already done.
Do you know what? There was a part of me that made me think maybe they showed this knowing it was bad to make people realize why they delayed the game.
I feel
You
like
know
you
what I
could have
mean?
not showed it and had the same
I
effect.
would have,
in that
yeah, I
case.
would have rather just not seen it at all if that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
No, but do you know what I mean? I wonder whether I'm not
Well,
saying
no,
that
because
was
look at the
anybody's
backlash
thinking.
that Halo got. If that was
Yeah.
the case, like that's not a
Yeah.
good thing. That's a bad thing.
But the difference there was they didn't delay it. They didn't delay it before showing that, right? They delayed it after the backlash.
Where's the blue alien girl with the weird, wacky disposition that you can have a relationship with? That's all I,
That's on Planet
you know,
Coaster.
I'm not.
Someone,
I-
I think we brought it up in the live stream as well. Like, why are we just humans? Why can't we
Yeah.
be like some
I
weird
think
alien
that is.
creature?
I must admit that's very disappointing. Like,
Do you
there
think they're
should
going
be...
for the idea of Starfield being grounded in reality, where obviously
I
we
think
don't really
so.
know of life outside of humans? So it's kind of like,
I
what if
think-
humans took over
It just-
multiple solar
I
systems?
think they're trying to do some sort of grounded space adventure, right? And the problem is with space that doesn't really work.
Well, not only that, but we
because-
have a lot of that. We have a lot of space adventure games that we can play that are grounded and
Mhm.
just
But we
Cool.
don't have a Bethesda one, right? And that's their thing, is they think their type of game is unique, which in many ways it is, but not all of those ways are
I mean,
positive.
it's not anymore.
No.
People are doing, like, especially recently, they've been doing the Bethesda formula better than Bethesda have. Granted,
For
they might
sure.
be smaller scale, but they're deeper
sure.
and they're more
I'm
interesting.
I'm still
But we-
I'm still very intrigued by this, but I do absolutely understand the criticisms of it because I think they are all valid, and I do think, this isn't a new thing. It is, to be honest, it's exactly what I expected. But that is both negative in some ways and very positive in other ways.
Here's the
Like,
best way for me to explain it is I was hoping for something that made me go, oh wow, I can't wait to play this, rather
Same.
than, hey, at least it's on Game Pass.
Because even if it was just like,
Mhm.
even if it was just going to be like an expanded version of what Fallout is, but in space, they could still wow with that, but they just didn't.
Yeah.
There was
There
no.
could still be Space Khajiit, and we don't know yet.
Yes, that is true.
Khajiit
There
isn't
could
in
be.
Fallout. That's Skyrim. It goes against my argument.
Yeah, well, but
That's-
still,
that's
space
the
cats,
thing, right?
space cats, and space lizards. Okay, I'm fine with
Is-
that. But where are they?
Yeah.
You get to the end of the game, it turns out everyone are just lizard people.
If that
I mean,
was,
I'll be-
if things like if things like that were in the game, why not just close with a sneak peek of a furry hand reaching into the frame or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah. Just something to
I mean, they
make
might do developer things and stuff, and kind of keep that stuff where it's like,
maybe
well, this month we're going to talk about factions. And
I mean, all of the concept art is human as well, so I don't think
Yeah.
so.
But imagine the
It is really
speculation
true.
if a furry hand reached out and grabbed your
Yeah.
character at the very end of the trailer, and everyone just starts speculating on the internet. What was that? What is it?
And that's the thing. I think that it's too early to really tell with Starfield. Like, this was very clearly designed as a first look rather than a. This is the. Do you know what I mean? We're definitely going to see more of this game before it comes out. There's no way that we won't, because we know that there is more to the game than what they've shown. Right? It's not just walking around shooting things. Do you know what I mean? Like.
Probably gonna be some talking, and that's
I was
probably
gonna
where
say
it's gonna start
when
and finish.
you boil it down to its bare elements, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be a little
really.
bit of flying, a little bit of walking,
But
a
what
little bit
kind
of
of
shooting, a
music
little bit
can
of
I
talking.
listen to?
That's a good point,
Like-
actually.
And that's the thing. I'm intrigued to see more of it. I am intrigued to see if there is that element that Luke keeps talking about. Is like what makes it Starfield as
Yeah.
opposed to just another Bethesda game in space.
Yeah, like I know there's lots of other. They're very different types of games, but if you think of the other sort of space romps that you can do right now, whether it's Jedi Fallen Order, or whether it's Guardians of the Galaxy, or whether it's Mass Effect, and they all have such a style and such a a take on space that's so and then obviously in cinema we have Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever. And then, in comics, you have things like Saga and whatnot. All these really interesting things going on in space. And then we have Rust Bucket, Starfield.
Also-
It's
well, I mean, again, like your ships and stuff might you might get better ships as you kind of move in, and there might be faction based ships as well. Like, so
yeah.
maybe we go from like Rust Bucket there.
that's
know,
my one thing.
Sure.
Is I feel like there's still so much to see of this game that it's almost too
Of course
early
there
to
is, but
be-
it is. Yeah,
Now's the time to show it.
yeah. You
What
kind of
right
is it?
now. Today was the day.
But hold on. We're judging what we saw. We can't.
Yeah.
We can't give him a pass because we haven't seen
No,
the
of
whole
course.
game yet.
No,
Like,
of
what we
course.
saw
But we also
bland.
can't rule out the fact that there is probably most likely going to be more.
I think,
Of course there is
I think
more.
the big
Like, it's not a
problem
2-minute
is
game.
that we have had 4 years of anticipation. 2018,
Yeah.
this game leaks, and we're like, oh,
Yeah.
we're gonna see their new game, Starfield, doesn't show. Then
Yeah.
a year
do a
later,
splash screen,
they
don't they?
say they're working on it, and they
Yeah.
show us the logo or whatever. Here we are, 3 years after that, and we're finally seeing the game. Oh, of course, there was the trailer in 2021 that was like, oh, hey, coming 2022. But we've built up so much anticipation for the next Bethesda game, the next big thing from Bethesda, who
That you
created
should be
all of
going-
these extremely magical, amazing worlds, from the original Elder Scrolls all the way up to Skyrim, from Fallout 3 all the way up to Fallout 76, which has crazy moments. Like, no matter what you feel about.
Do you know what I think it is, though? I think for me, I just look at the way that Bethesda like to present their games, and they usually like to go big when the game is really close, right? Like, not even slightly close. They like to go big when it's really close. And that is what makes me feel like maybe in like January, February, March next year, they will do a show just for Starfield, and we'll see like half an hour of it or whatever, and it will be that's where we'll get what is Starfield outside of the Bethesda things we already know, right? That's my thing. I just look at the way that Bethesda like to present their games. I look at the way they presented Fallout 4 the first time and everything, 3 months before release or whatever, and kind of big blowout on the game, and show everybody everything, or like the main. Do you know what I mean? Like, they went quite deep on what they showed because the game was so close.
I think
Right
it doesn't
now-
matter how you spin it. I don't think it matters if you know how they like to do their trailers or whatever. What they showed was disappointing. What they showed was just rehashed stuff. What they showed wasn't exciting.
I'll be
It was
I'll be
just
interested to see
a
what
bland kind of
the.
space game.
I'll be interested to see what the other reactions are on it, because, as I said earlier, I am interested to know how many people are happy with just like right now. This does look like Fallout in space, and I wonder how
more
many
boring.
people are happy for it to just be that, right?
They
like,
didn't even really show any meaningful character interaction. Like, there was nothing to this.
Not at all.
It was almost redundant. It was
I think that
just
stuff's
kind
going to
of
be for
incoming.
later, even if it's a bad call to do that kind of thing. Because
Well,
again,
and that's
like,
kind of my
we're,
thing.
we're looking at these games like Fallout and Elder Scrolls and their history and stuff with hindsight. We know those experiences. We've explored every single
Absolutely.
texture and rock and all this other kind of stuff on all those games. But you take a look at any of those games when they were first shown off, and the amount of stuff that we've seen off those trailers to the amount of stuff that we experienced when we played the games, vastly different things as well too. But
Absolutely.
I mean, again, like Starfield, like I'm super pumped for this. I'm like, my expectations were I just want to see what Bethesda has for this
Mhm.
and what it is going to be. And
That's my
personally,
thing. Is like
I'm super stoked for this, but at the
Yeah.
exact same time, I'm like, yeah, they probably could have shown off, more of the stuff that makes it the Bethesda narrative stuff, because I know a
Yeah,
lot of people that
absolutely.
they simply just play Bethesda games
And
for their
that's-
stories.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that's kind of my thing. Is I understand the criticism, but it's weird because for me, what they showed didn't make me any less interested in the game.
But you said yourself you were already sold, so it would have had to be a disaster for you to not be interested in it.
Yeah, that's true.
It's kind
That's
of like
true.
Plague Tale. It's the same thing
Whereas
as
like,
Plague Tale with your
whereas
thing.
like I said, right, like with Starfield, I guess it was the thing of even if it is just Fallout in space, that's good enough for me. So
Yeah.
because it already looks like that now,
Like,
I'm already happy.
But
kind
I've
of
played
thing.
and loved like Fallout 3, for instance. I've loved that, and then seeing what Obsidian have been doing, and then
Absolutely.
the emphasis on this being new,
And
brand
that's
new
why I said,
thing.
like, I
and it wasn't.
definitely understand. I understand the criticism, and I do think there were some mistakes in the way they chose to show the game. But there is that other part of me of I understand why they've made the decision they have about how they've shown it, given that the game is further away than they maybe would have liked it to be at this
Genuinely.
point.
If Xbox had something else to show, Starfield wouldn't have been in the show. I don't think.
Oh, really?
I think.
Oh, it
I
would have
think if
definitely been on
Xbox,
the show.
I think if Xbox had a big hitter to end with, they would have.
So if they had like,
they would have
if
pushed
Avowed
it.
was ready to show, for example,
Oh,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Starfield would have been here, even if they had the next Gears, even if they had.
I think you would have got a
Starfield would
small
have been here.
thing. I don't think
you
would
would have
got what
maybe
we
had
did.
a smaller like a gameplay
I think
trailer,
you would have got
right? Rather
yeah.
than
I think you would have got a small snippet of gameplay. I don't think you would have
Yeah.
got what we got, which made it
Maybe.
look as disappointing to me.
yeah, maybe
But if
you're
they
right.
had a big hitter at the end,
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
Starfield would have been
So,
minimal, if not.
Anyway, let's end it
Well, I think
here
Phillip
with
still
our
had- still.
with our overall rating on the show. I'll just do A, B, C, D, or other, right? We'll just rate it that way. Luke, how would you rate this show?
It's fine. I don't know. To be honest, it was fine.
Fair.
So
Fair.
like a C.
Yeah, I would-
I guess
yeah.
so. I guess so.
Yeah, so like not a bad show, an okay show.
It was fine.
Yeah,
It was fine. There was more that interested me in the Jeff Keighley stuff.
Interesting.
Personally,
Interesting. I can't wait for TMNT. Can we just? I just want to put that out there.
I am so hyped for that game.
Yeah, check my
Um,
inbox and.
Sean, how did you feel about this show? Overall,
I'd
little
probably go
bit
with
of
a C, and
Okay.
I would say that I probably enjoyed the Keeleys a little bit more. I just think Keeley, some of it annoys me, but there's at least some hype, and the show didn't have any
I mean,
hype.
yeah.
I mean, look at it like this. The highlight was Goat Simulator 3 because that trailer was fucking incredible.
Yeah.
There wasn't even anything like that you could really. Pull
They didn't
from
go
in
the
this show.
silly way, right? Yeah.
Well, no, it's not even. It's not even that. It's just there isn't like a specific thing you could pull from. Where there was a couple of things that I could immediately pull from Keely's show.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
nothing
that's
really
fair.
here that
That's
kind of
fair.
stood out.
Yeah. Phil, what about you? What's your overall rating for this show?
Yeah, I mean, I would give it a solid B. Like, it didn't quite hit A status. There was nothing that jumped and just blew me away. But I loved a lot of the stuff that I saw here. As negative as I'm being on Starfield, I just wanted more out of it, and that's on me. You know, for anticipating, like looking at what they've done in the past. Looking at Orc World, you know, or not Orc World, but like Elder Scrolls World with orcs and Khajiit and the lizard people and all that stuff. Like, I think
You wanted to see more of what the game is, right? And
Yeah,
what you
and
got
more-
wasn't enough.
and more like, yeah, exactly, just more like how crazy can Bethesda make a space world. And like you said, it looks like they're going for a more like down to earth, grounded version of that space, and that's just not what I personally wanted for it. But I'm still really excited to see what it is, and I thought there was a great amount of stuff for everybody in this showcase.
I do.
think-
That's where I would praise them. I think there were a few really weird missing things. For example, I thought we'd see Age of Empires 4 console port in here somewhere.
Are we worried about Hellblade now? Because I feel like
I'm not
it's been a
worried.
good run of
I'm not
shows
worried.
where it hasn't shown up.
No, I'm not worried. You got to remember, we saw it at Game Awards. And
Tiny bit.
that.
We saw
Yeah,
a
but what?
snippet. I feel like this
But
is
what I
a
mean is
2024 game now. I feel like that's quite far away. Still.
I mean, it could be late next year,
Yeah,
right?
you got to
Like,
remember
we
this
could-
was the next.
This was
12
only up to
months.
June, right?
So June of
So it
next
could
year.
be a late
no, but
next year
that's,
game.
that's what I mean. Like, it was still the first game they showed off with the Series X. Like, I feel like
For sure, but
it
I
should
don't.
probably be in a better
I-
place by now.
I've
possible
always said to
it'll
you
change
about
on
that
that
thing.
too.
I don't agree with that because they spoke about it first, but it was so early in development that they spoke about it that I don't think it matters when they spoke about it. I don't think that makes a difference.
Real quick, I'd like to say that Barkey says, on one hand, I thought they'd show more, but I am excited to see what the story is about and what more there is in the universe that they've built, even if it
I think
is
a story
Fallout in
trailer.
space.
I
And
think a
then-
more story-focused thing would have been
I was just going to
way
ask
better.
you guys that. Yeah, how much difference would it have made if they decided, okay, we're not going to show proper gameplay right now because we're not quite ready to reveal kind of in-depth stuff, but we'll give you some sense of where the story and universe is going to go. Do you think that would have been the right play?
I mean, I would have been happy to see a dialogue tree at the very least.
I think at this point they had to show what they did with Starfield.
Okay,
I think
interesting.
anything less would have just been really disastrous for
Because
them.
people wanted gameplay, right? Like, regardless. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
That's true.
even with because it's just had a massive delay as well. Like I
Mhm.
feel like getting a better gauge of what the world is, because all they've really shown us is that it plays like the other games that we know. So I think they could have gotten away with
I think it's
what makes Starfield Starfield. Which
hard
is
to hit
what is
every
missing.
single corner that everybody wants in 10 minutes.
Oh, no,
That's
absolutely.
true. That's true.
Absolutely.
So,
But I think they could have done
Jeff,
more with character stuff than
absolutely,
the kind
I
of
agree with that.
bits they showed.
So, Jeff, how did you feel overall about the showcase? What would your rating be?
I mean, I don't jump into these really with that much hype. I look basically just for stuff that I'm going to enjoy. Like, yeah, I would love for like those like stand up and like freak out kind of moments and stuff like that. Obviously the current state of the industry is kind of fractured in a lot of ways, so we're not getting a lot of the biggest things. I mean, Jeff Keighley kind of pointed that out as well too. Is like set your expectations.
It is a weird place right now, right? Like
So
the
yeah, because I mean,
industry in general.
we're coming out of those. We're coming into an era where we're getting a lot of games that are being built in COVID, as opposed to ones that have had to struggle through it. So for me, it's like if I had to be realistic on this, I would say a B plus. Like, fan in me wants to give it like an A, but there is a few games where I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll try it. But I mean, there was a lot of stuff here that I'm extremely interested for. And I mean, the fact that everything's coming to Game Pass is fantastic. It solidifies, like, I think that for me as well too. There's a couple games on here that even without Game Pass, I'd be day one buying it. But again, for me, like I'll give it a B plus just because again, there's a lot of stuff on here that I'm super pumped for. Yeah, I mean, like, Xbox's strength for me has always been the diversity in its ideas and what it's giving to its developers. It's not just third person games or whatever. It's racing. It's shooting. It third person. It is like puzzles and strategy and all that stuff, and all that was here.
Yeah, for sure.
There's so many genres. Like, I'm not going to identify with everything. I'm not going to be like, oh, every single thing looks amazing.
Yeah.
For me,
but you know what? That actually, sorry, I was just going to say that leads me to something me and Luke have said millions of times before about how Xbox really would benefit from just doing some more shows that are slightly more focused for their specific audiences each time. So do an RPG showcase. Do you know what I mean? Do your first person, do your first person shooter focused show. Do you know what I mean? Like, because they definitely have that thing where they have a huge amount of variety in their catalog overall, but it leads to these shows that always feel like there's gonna be someone that's a bit left out because there's maybe only one game for them. Do you know what I mean? And if you make your shows a little bit more focused,
showcase, and there's nothing for non-shooter.
No, as like a supplementary thing, as like state of play, not as like a.
I'm not saying like a full-on big thing. Yeah.
Speaking of I don't know, feeling left out, I just want to get the chat here really quick. Al Tribesman says, it'd be like the expectations I would have for the next Ken Levine game. I didn't know Ken Levine was still making games. I thought,
Ken Levine's working on a game right now.
With a game right now, and people are leaving like crazy.
And it's nice to see L Tribesman in here. If you're still here, please subscribe to Eat Sleep Game on YouTube, where our weekly podcast comes out. And you can also find it on Spotify by searching Game for All, because we'll be doing that stuff. And then, as for me, I will give my go on. Someone else in the chat.
Barky the Sea Dog just says, I agree with the 6 rating. It was fun, but not, oh my god.
Yeah. So I'm somewhere between a C and a B on this showcase. And the reason for that is there are probably 4 things in this show that I really, really want to play. With those 4 things being Redfall, Forza Motorsport, Diablo 4, and I still really want to play Starfield. Like, that's just where I am with it. There was a lot of other stuff where I'm like, yeah, that looks cool. And I think that, like I said earlier, Xbox finally getting Persona is cool. I will play those games, especially considering they are going to be on Game Pass. Like, I will play them. It just, I don't know. At the same time, it just kind of, I think, like Luke said while we were watching, they lacked that massive moment still, right? They lacked that. Oh my god, like, blown everybody else out the water kind of
But I
moment.
think even they necessarily needed that. It is just there wasn't a lot memorable from this. I thought, like I said, with like Keely's saying, you can point to like Goat Simulator, for instance, as an easy, quick one to pull from, or like
Call
the
of
Last
Duty.
of Us stuff at the end. Call of Duty, sure.
Yeah.
But like
Do you
this
know
one, it
one
was
thing I
very,
will
like,
say, and I said it at the
what's
time when
next?
we were watching, is I much preferred the pacing of this show compared to Keely's. Like, I liked the game, very minimal talking, and only really, do you know what I mean? Like, they had
I
about
don't know.
4 sections of talking
Yeah, I mean, I
at the
think Keely's
most.
felt a bit organic and more human.
Okay,
sort of
interesting.
thing.
Less than half, I think, of what they showed at Keeley.
What was that, sorry?
I liked about less than half of the games that they showed at the
Keely's
Sun
thing.
Games.
Yeah, I don't think there was an
Game.
overwhelming amount. It was just like I was
There's
super
more
into
memorable things,
Callisto Protocol.
Yeah.
I thought the trailer for Goat Simulator was hilarious. Super into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
It was just stuff that interested me more and like stuck with me
for
more in
sure.
that one.
I am intrigued to see, as I said earlier, I'm intrigued to see what they will, like, if there is any cool little announcements on the extended showcase, because they had a few last year. I wonder whether we will get a Somerville date, whether we'll get an Atomic Heart date, because both of those games are still slated for this year.
Yeah, and I hope we get an ID and Xbox trailer, like that 30 game sizzle reel.
Yeah, where they do
yeah.
the sizzle reel for the indies. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, overall, I'm fairly happy. Is it as strong as they needed it to be in terms of covering themselves for this year? Potentially not. But I do actually think they have a couple of interesting things. Like, I'll definitely be playing Pentiment. I will be jumping back into the Forza Horizon 5 DLC just because any excuse to sort of play more of that game for me. You know, I like there were a couple of interesting things, but I think unfortunately they obviously had to take the big L with this year. You know, they had to just kind of write this year off. But actually, the next 12 months, if these things hit that they are saying will hit within these 12 months, it's looking pretty decent for them. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're gonna get Plague Tale at some point on as a day one Game Pass game. That looks cool. We're hopefully gonna get Starfield within the next 12 months. People will be hyped for that, even based on what they've seen today. Redfall looks super cool. Forza's there for the people who are fans of driving sims. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think they have a varied,
Cover a lot of ground.
and yeah, I think it doesn't. It makes the situation less dire than it was even like 2 weeks ago. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing, is I think having that little bit of a roadmap there is clever for them, and I think they should. The one piece of advice I would give them, if it was anything, one piece of feedback, is I actually think if they are only going to do one showcase a year, stick to this thing of we are only going to show you things that are out within 12 months, or at least aiming to be out within 12 months. Because I think that's a good idea with how much stuff they have in their pipeline. Of like, let people set their expectations right. This is only going to be stuff that is shown that is going to be within 12 months. And then people can be a little bit more realistic. Like, you know, if they would have said before this showcase the only things they're going to show are things that are out within 12 months, everyone would have been like, okay, maybe Avowed is less likely. Maybe, do you know what I mean? And yes, it does take away a little bit of an element of hype from it, but then it also has that thing of you still have the capacity to surprise people because nobody knows every single game that is coming out in a 12-month period. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, overall I'm happy. Go on, Jeff. What are you going to say?
One thing as well too is like the one thing that I have to really give them chops, or that I have to give them like credit for it, is they came at us with 90 minutes of games that are entirely coming to Game Pass. This wasn't like every fourth or fifth game was coming to Game Pass. So I mean, from a value perspective, I think depending on what you're looking for is always going to change your value on Game Pass and everything. You could look at
Absolutely.
the 500 games that are on there and be like, oh, I like 30 of them. I like 300. I like 12. But to do an entire conference where everything is coming to Game Pass, that is amazing. Because like they could have just released half of these games are coming to Game Pass and be like, yeah, that's cool. But everything. I mean, to me, I got to give them props on that. Just because, like, again, like they are going entirely in on this.
And I think that's probably what they'll aim for every time now, right? Like every time they do a showcase now, they probably will aim for, okay, every game in this show is going to be on Game Pass. Like, because why not?
I agree with the sentiment, but I don't think Diablo 4 is coming to Game Pass. Obviously, it will at some point in the future.
I mean, I think that's Jeff's point on the Diablo one is like, Diablo 4 will still come to Game Pass at some point, even if it's not there day one.
I was just setting the record.
Yeah.
The sentiment is correct. Like, it is cool to have a show full of games.
In terms of like, what they kind of showcased and stuff like that. And again, I could be confusing the 12-month thing with the Game Pass type of thing where they were saying everything. I mean, still the amount that they showed that was coming to Game
Absolutely.
Pass
I think I think it was only Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 that didn't have Game Pass day one on, right?
Overwatch is free to play. So,
and Overwatch is free anyway. This is my point. So I think there was only one game in the entire showcase that didn't have Game Pass day one. So yeah, I'm pretty happy, but I would, as Luke has been less happy with this show, I do actually understand a lot of his criticism. I just think it's one of those things that always happens with these kind of showcases, right? Is like sometimes they're going to speak to you and sometimes they aren't.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I definitely don't think this was a bad showcase by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, please let us know what you thought of the showcase. Obviously, if you're in the live chat right now, let us know. And if you're watching later on YouTube, let us know in the comments. If you're on Spotify, please jump over to YouTube and let us know in the comments. And let us know also which game on this showcase are you most looking forward to now that you've seen them. Are you more looking forward to are you more looking forward to Redfall now? Are you looking forward to Starfield any more or less than you were before? Let us know. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts. And we will see you next time, because this has been a very long one and we've had a lot to do, and I think we all have our own lives to get back to. So thank you for joining us. Please subscribe and we will see you next time. Goodbye.